Warm breezes.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 25th of August, 2018. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
How is Warm Breezes turquoise?
And Robert Kemp.
Because it's teal.
All teal.
It's kind of the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. You have to ask B&Q Valspar.
Yeah.
How they name their colours.
The whole point of blue is it's not a warm colour. Therefore, calling it warm is like...
But it's a breeze, and maybe that particular form of teal is slightly... I don't know... breezier?
I mean, I'm sure they were thinking like, oh, it's like the summer sky as you're standing outside and there's a warm breeze. It's like, no, blue is not warm. It's inherently the opposite.
If it was cool breeze, would that work, do you think, for the teal colour?
Maybe.
Sea breeze?
Yeah,
maybe?
sea breeze, there you go. Slightly green water.
Or maybe briny breeze.
Yeah, maybe not quite so appealing.
It's got to be a little more poetic than that, surely, for like a paint name. Like
Salt breeze.
Salt breeze, yeah, salt breeze.
Salty breeze.
I think salt breeze would be more like a white of some kind, a slightly bluey white.
Check out my salty breeze.
Clearly
So what would you choose for a sort of turquoisey teal? Is it a teal or a turquoise? I can't see it. So, do you actually see the colour? Have you got the colour?
I've closed the window now, but
It's gone. Okay.
It was it was almost a duck egg-ish sort of, that sort of light, almost greeny blue, more green than blue sort of blue.
So not like green. A summer sky then.
No, not really. I'm not even sure it looks like any part of the sea that you'd sign like the sea seems darker than that colour to me.
Okay.
Well, anywhere in England, yes.
Yeah.
So it's more like a warm breeze.
It's more
than the sea.
I guess. But...
Must be such a weird job naming paint colours.
It's more like a sky as viewed through a baby's eyes. I don't know what I'm saying.
No,
what, because babies' eyes are like underdeveloped and they're trying to work out what the sky looks like?
Yeah, I guess. It's a more of a cute version of that colour. I don't know.
I always remember... Do you remember all the colours in the...
Oh, actually, I just thought... Sorry. I know what it's like. It's a bit like looking through the glass on my tables.
Okay.
Like that sort of refraction blue, I guess.
You've got like coffee tables with glass surface, right? That you can
sort of frosted glass top. But...
Yeah.
So it's a bit. Well, except they're sort of frosted, but yeah, that sort of refraction blue, I guess. Call it refraction. There you go. Abstract.
Call it frosted glass.
Frosted glass. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to talk about how weird the colour palette was in the Nickelodeon cartoon Rugrats.
Oh God, yeah.
Do you remember how crazy the colours were? And I don't know if I remember.
I don't think Rugrats was even that unusual for like that age.
No.
90s cartoons were all just like that.
Cuspo or whatever the company were all like quite weird looking. But I do remember. And I'm not sure if this actually happened or if I'm imagining it, but I think it really happened. There was an episode where the Rugrats, these babies, are out in the back garden looking up and going, "Why is the sky blue?" And it's clearly purple.
Oh yeah.
It's like if you have an insane color palette for your cartoon, don't write about the color of the sky.
Weirdly, I was talking to a friend of ours earlier this week about Rugrats. And we were just just reminiscing about probably my favourite joke from the whole series, where it just shows it's like a picture of the street, right? But it starts off as like a normal view of the street, and then it went rainy, and then it went very bright, and then it went sort of autumny, and then it went wintry, as if to simulate the seasons passing. And then was it Drew, like the brother or something, walks into the house and just goes, "Crazy weather we've had this week." And it's just like,
classic.
In fairness, Rugrats wasn't all that funny. It's just like, this is just one sort of slightly cleverer joke in the whole thing.
There was one or two. There was that episode where the father gets really, really tired or something. Is it?
Oh wait, that was pickles. I mean, that was kind of funny in himself, wasn't it? Wasn't the company he worked for like called Consolidated Lard?
That's right, Consolidated Lard.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it had some good bits. And it was kind of like, it had a ton of stuff about like Jewish culture and tradition in it, because the family was Jewish.
Oh, of course. The grandparents especially were like, all TV is evil.
But it was tons of like, there's whole Passover episodes and everything about like Jewish tradition and culture that I wouldn't know about at all, probably, as a kid without Rugrats.
Well, you might know about it as a kid because of RE.
Yeah, but they weren't that good.
Mandated religious education.
I don't remember that much about
No, of course.
from that.
I don't remember learning much about Jewish tradition.
No.
Actually.
I'm sure you did.
About Muslim tradition and Hindu as well, mostly, I seem to remember. There's too many religions for them to teach in like half an hour every other week or whatever it was.
Yeah. I remember, Pillars of Islam was one. I remember learning a lot about lotus flowers.
Oh, yeah. What, Buddhist stuff?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I can't remember any of it, but I remember covering it.
I think it's a good idea, probably.
The turtles all the way down thing?
That's not real, is it? That's not actually in like a major religion.
Kind of, but not really.
Yeah, isn't it one of them where it's something like it's not the world necessarily, but our representation of the plane of existence or something is riding upon an elephant upon a thing or something like it.
Right.
Yeah, don't get confused with Discworld, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your religious metaphors mixed up with Discworld, and then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not even that dissimilar. I guess.
Well, that is the point, though.
Yeah, that is the point. Yeah.
In fairness, I can't remember which religion that was that was like that or had that concept at some point of its existence.
It's got to be some form of Buddhism, right? I presume. Or,
maybe, yeah. When you're talking about the metaphysical like that, it's probably Buddhism.
At least they get into that stuff and are interested in that philosophical stuff. Other religions seem to just not really talk about that too much.
Yeah. But anyway, Jewish cartoons.
Rugrats.
Wasn't Hey Arnold that little bit Jewish infused as well?
Was it?
But not really overtly, like, if you know what I mean.
I guess there was probably at least one character, because that was set in kind of not New York, right? So there was like some more of that kind of community there, right?
It was New York inspired, I guess. It looked very New York, but I don't think it was ever explicitly said. No. But I think New York has, well, probably loads of big cities have this, because it was like PS, wasn't it? Primary School 118, wasn't it? It was like of about 1 million different state schools that were in the city. Oh god, yeah, you're right. I remember that. PS 118, something like that. PS 118. My god, and like ridiculous American radio station names, like. Yeah, that all start with K for some reason, right? Not quite K Jazz, but like it should have been just K Jazz. I was thinking about that earlier about like stuff in The Simpsons that I didn't understand as a kid for American stuff, like that particularly the radio stations being like 4 letters starting with K. I still don't quite get that. There must be a tradition. No. And also like. I was watching the Mr. Plow, that's my name. But he's like, when he gives the number, he says like, call Klondike 522, something like that. And it's like, Klondike? What the hell does that mean? Like, oh yeah, I've never quite understood what those, because didn't they used to like use Klondike to describe like gold rush types? Yeah, well, Klondike is a river in the Yukon, right, where there was a gold rush. But what's that got? That's in freaking Canada, isn't it, or in Alaska or something? What's that got to do with telephone numbers? I still don't quite get that. Might have to actually look that up. Okay, maybe that was just a word he could get. Maybe it's that simple. Right, I'm looking it up on Wikipedia because I need to know, and it says so. It says something here. The webpage says something. Words have appeared on the screen. I think the web might always say things. It's just most of it you don't ever want to listen to.
Klondike
Listen to
5
written words.
reflects the old convention for telephone exchange names. So Klondike 5 means 555, apparently.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
know why.
right,
KL5.
Okay. All right, that sort of makes sense because, well, in the vague way that a lot of like commercial American telephone numbers all seem to start with 555.
So J, K, and L are on the 5 on the dial, right?
Yeah.
So presumably KL means 5 because...
Well, K plus L would be 55, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. K plus L is 5. So Klondike 5 is 555.
Yeah, simply.
And 555 it was deliberately, apparently, according to Wikipedia, was deliberately used for like fictional numbers in order that...
That's why Rob thinks all the American numbers start with 555, because he's only seen it in American TV shows where they're all that, because that's the fake number.
Oh, is it?
So,
is that
yeah.
really it?
So 555 is the fake number, yeah.
So TV shows use that because there's no risk of people like
Ringing
trying
it
to
up.
type it for real.
Yes.
And what...
That's
so,
amazing.
Yeah, so special fake numbers start with 555, and KL5 means 555, and KL means Klondike is short for KL. So Klondike 5 is how a fake number can start. Isn't that dumb?
There's so many levels to it.
Yeah.
Not just that 555 is fake number town, and it's a convention that's a pretty good convention.
Yeah.
That they then went further down.
Well, maybe the Klondike convention is just we're not familiar with that level of it.
Yeah.
Maybe we're only familiar with the number version.
Yeah, maybe KL and actually is more of a, being shortened to Klondike is actually fairly more common for some reason.
I mean, that's got to be an American thing, right? Because they're more likely to know about the Klondike Gold Rush thing that you were talking about, right? Than we are, I suppose. Although we know about it, but... Yeah.
Vaguely. For some reason I've got in my head there might have been a character on some show called Klondike Pete.
Probably.
Probably.
I'm Klondike Pete. I'm going hunting for gold. That's just pretty close to my Shimon voice.
People say Shimon like that, but that's not how it sounds at all when Michael Jackson says it. It's
Michael
like
goes,
Shimon, like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But people say Shimon, and it's like, that sounds nothing like Shimon. And he pronounces the last letter.
Shimon of the estate down the road, just like, hi, Shimon.
Shimon.
Yeah.
Right, Shimon, how you doing, Shimon?
Shimon! And she talks like that constantly. That's where it comes from. It's just like poor Shimon down the street with a speech impediment. She gets a lot of stick.
Shimon, motherfucker.
Joe, how's it going? I'm Shimon.
Okay. Our poor listeners, this is in their ears. What else
Lemon chiffon.
Normalise those levels.
Yeah, they have to. Anyway, what's going on, guys? You guys been up to anything exciting?
No.
Not
a lot, really. I don't know. How long have I been back at work? We've been back at work a week. So.
Were you off?
We had a week off, and Noam took me to see some history.
History, sweet.
Some history. We saw
whereabouts?
Anglesey Abbey near Cambridge.
Oh,
it's a big old house, big old garden. Got some stuff in it. They had scones. That's the important part.
As always.
I mean, what is it now? Is it National Trust, isn't it? Yeah, so they've got to have scones.
Yep.
It's a requirement. Pretty good scones, in fairness. And also we went to Orford Castle to see a...
No, I remember Orford Castle.
A stone tube in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And it's... it's a stone tube in the middle of nowhere. Actually, I'll give them their due.
It's not a tube, isn't it rectangular?
No, it's a big cylinder. It's like a what do they call it? Motte and Bailey sort of configuration, but the Motte part is actually just a round, a sort of cylindrical tower.
I must be thinking of a different one. Oh well, never mind.
But yeah, it's like that castle wouldn't be all that interesting if it wasn't for a surprisingly good audio tour. Actually.
Yeah,
there's nothing really in there. There was just just rooms and stuff you could look at, and
stone rooms.
this is clearly a urination hole. But it's like, I'm not sure I would have guessed that had the audio tour not said. It's like, oh yes, this guy was important because he had his own piss hole out the side of the building.
Very important.
It was a little, I don't know, it was a little over dramatized because they tried to do that thing where they were like, oh, we're gonna now talk to someone from that era. And it was like the butler or something of the castle. No. Oh, the chaplain, sorry, you're right. Yeah. Philip the chaplain, and he was very overplayed. Like, I'm going to talk like this the entire time. Oh, what fun we had as kings killed people. Or as the castle changed hands many times over its conflicted history. And I'm like, this is for the kids, right? This has got to be for the kids. And then, but then it's like, I don't know if it's worse, like when you've got this voice talking enthusiastically and not really getting to many facts. He just likes to embellish the moment. And then the deadpan narrator lady is like sort of agreeing with him. And it's like, oh, what wonderful feasts we have. Yes, I'm sure you did. It's just like you don't need like keep these two things separately. Like, don't have a conversation. That doesn't work. You're wasting my time here by like. I don't know. You shouldn't be encouraging this man and his delusions. Yeah, but anyway, audio tour, not too bad. Like, yeah,
usually good value.
Yeah, a bit of me kind of wishes there was some sort of way I could have. Well, if I had the forethought to bring some headphones or whatever, and like just put it on my phone and listen to it like that way as I was walking around, rather than having one of those speakers on sticks.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
because those things get a little bit tedious after a while.
Because all you need is an app, right? I mean, that would make sense if English Heritage had an app, and then you just paid microtransaction or whatever for the audio tour or something. Or
there was like a temporary unlock code based on your ticket or something.
Yeah,
and I suppose that'd be a little smart because then their ticket system would actually have to be like online-ified. Although I guess it has to be for card payments anyway. But
don't know. Oh, you know more about ticketing systems than anyone.
Well, yeah, but most like if you've got a card terminal, right, it has to be online or connected in some way. Really,
I guess so. Yeah.
So yeah, if you can run card payments, you can run.
Yeah. And then maybe they could use like Bluetooth beacons or something to get like so your phone could know which room it was in.
So I was like, yeah, there's a I forget what it's called now, but there is a technology about RRT, I think they call it, like something to do with like. If you've got a building and you're running multiple Wi-Fi stations in it, you can use the round trip time between the Wi-Fi stations to figure out where someone is. So you can use that for inside building location tracking. So like when you reach a certain aisle in the supermarket, it goes biscuits on your phone or something like that. Which is it's an idea I used to talk about. Like with Barlow a lot back in at one point, because he was like, oh yeah, it would be great if we could do like GPS based marketing in stores and things like that. And it's like, yeah, GPS isn't going to work, mate. It doesn't work indoors all that well, and its fidelity is not that great. But this stuff might actually solve the problem. And it's like, yeah, just put that in your National Trust and smoke it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, this was English Heritage. Yeah, don't get the two confused. Like I just did.
Always like their flag, English Heritage.
Oh, what, the sort of
red
like
square
more complicated hash?
Yeah, the complicated hash. Yeah.
Hashtag English Heritage.
Do you see any? Because I don't know if there is anything at Orford Castle, but Orford, like that sandbank out there or whatever, is that there was like early radar stuff, wasn't there? In
the place you're not
so you can see it from the tower. Like you can see a couple of the pillbox like bunkers, I suppose, where that stuff was trialed.
Are you still not allowed to go out there? So
it's a nature reserve, so you can only go out there in very specific circumstances.
Yeah, we didn't try. In fairness, we didn't go that way.
Fair, yeah.
But we did go to probably the most artisanal, up its own arse bakery I think I've ever been in my life.
What, in that village?
Oh God, yeah, the Pump Street Bakery. I mean, I'll be fair to them. The bread we came away with, really very nice bread. They did some good stuff. The sausage roll, yeah, it's pretty good sausage roll. The price, like for what you ordered as a lunch, ridiculous. So I basically,
What are we talking?
wait, that sausage roll on its own was £8.
What?
Are you kidding me?
Did you realise when you were ordering it, or was it like a nasty surprise?
Well, the thing, some of it I didn't realise the sausage roll was that much because I don't think it was listed. I think it was just one of their bakery things. But like the rest of it was just like, yeah, it seemed like a lot. But you thought you'd then get a plate of stuff, like when you go to like a regular, quite nice cafe, I suppose, and you order a sandwich. It normally comes with quite tall sandwich, maybe with some nice bread and some decent filling. Get a bit of salad on the side, maybe some crisps, something. You get sort of a little platter. No, you get bugger all with this thing, right? So it was basically a piece of toast, admittedly on their very nice bread, but a piece of toast,
right?
And I was going for something called, it was like a tomato and mozzarella tartine.
You're basically trying to eat a pizza, is what you're saying.
Yeah, kind of. Their options were a little bit too healthy for me. So it was like, which one has?
How close can I get to a pizza?
Yeah,
Excellent.
So it had some fruit on it as well. Like,
tomatoes are fruit, so
some other fruit.
Good.
I think it might have been pomegranate or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it was, and first it was a nice big ball of mozzarella, and it was just on this. It was just basically a ball of mozzarella and some chopped tomatoes on a piece of toast. And it was like £8 or something ridiculous. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. And there was nothing with it. The coffee was okay. And not badly priced. But yeah, artisanal bakeries. What a load of crap.
Yeah, they can be. You just have to find one that does like insane like cronuts or some bullshit like that. Then it's maybe worth it.
As I say, I think the loaf of sourdough we came away with was actually not that badly priced. Like we were expecting to pay a bit of a premium for like a freshly baked thing, and it was like £2 something, I think, for the sourdough. I think Gnome said, like a proper loaf in a paper bag, rustic style, and it was really nice bread. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but it's just this restaurant part of it, which is clearly where the money is.
Oh man, talking about sausage rolls just reminded me of how bloody awesome the sausage rolls were at university. The university shop in the middle of campus just had the label warm as well, so you could have them just on the way to lectures in the morning. It was like, holy shit, these are the best.
Oh, mate, you make it like there are two things from my I suppose educational past. Food-wise, that I am incredibly three if we count chip for chip.
Chip for chip, the best deal ever.
Yeah, I give Dan a crisp or two, and he gives me a chip. That's how it works, chip for chip.
Amazing deal.
Yeah, worked out well for everyone. A bit of variety to our meals.
Yeah, everyone benefits.
But also, was it the bacon, the bacon baguette they used to do at the Ipswich School breakfast canteen? That was so good. There's something about the gorgeous bit of baguette, lovely bits of bacon, loads of butter in there. Excellent. I missed that. No one's done a bacon baguette thing since. It's grand. And also the Sukaf, man, in Southampton. Love that place. Used to do a lovely. I can't remember. Actually, this is the bit I can't actually remember whether it was a chicken burger or a regular burger I used to have. No, it was a regular burger. It's definitely a regular burger. And it wasn't the best meat in the world, but it was the combination of that, bit of mayonnaise, its ultra floury bun, and the curly fries. Oh, man. That's a meal of kings.
It's just like cafe.
Yeah, it's just it's a certain level of skank that is probably the most satisfying level of skank. It's
skank level.
Yeah, it's it's bad, but it's also dirt cheap and amazingly satisfying for some reason.
And not that bad, I guess.
No. I mean, it tastes great, but it's the quality, I suppose, if you're being artisanal about it. What's been put in front of you has come out of a freezer bag. But it tasted great. And it was exactly what you needed in the middle of a day.
And now that's talking about sausage rolls and freezer bags has reminded me of our Christmas antics every year.
Oh, wait, just because all of the...
Because all the cheap-ass...
All the Crimbo food.
Christmas foods that just come in giant bags.
Yeah.
We just buy so many fucking sausage rolls.
What are we eating tonight? Where we've got 50 sausage rolls in a bag. Should we have those? Yes, we shall.
And those were still pretty good for frozen
yeah.
air sausage rolls.
Weren't bad. In fact, none of that stuff was too bad. Like, I don't know, I thought some of it was quite variable. Like, I used to get the like, seasoned chicken goujons were sometimes really bloody nice. Like, they'd go all crispy and be, like, seasoned in just the right way. And sometimes they'd go, like, weirdly, like, overly juicy. Like, the crumb would be soggy for some reason when they came out of the oven. I'm not quite sure what caused that. So they were a risk. They could be amazing, but they could be a complete letdown. So, just in case, prepare to put them in a sandwich so you don't really notice it that much. I was goaded on this week to put on, like, to potentially have a leftover bit of pizza, like, after saying everything's better when you put it in 2 slices of bread. It's like, well, put this leftover bit of pizza in 2 slices of bread.
Pizza sandwich?
Pizza sandwich. I didn't.
Slightly
I haven't quite brought myself to that, but I'm tempted. Ooh.
Well, what you should do is just... This sounds way more gross, but I think it would be more edible, is just scrape the toppings off and put those in the sandwich.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Get rid of the manky old bread and have nice fresh bread.
I'm sure that would be absolutely fine, but, you know, once you oven a one-day-old pizza, like, from Domino's especially, it's not that bad. Also, I ovened a cheese on toast.
Ovened?
Like,
Sure.
like a cheese and ham toasty, because it was next to my pizza slice. So I was eating that up.
So you're just making 2 different kinds of pizza.
Kinda, yeah.
Right, it's all about pizza. Non-stop pizza.
You know it. So I just wanted to see if it would work, basically. So I made like a cheese and ham sandwich and was like, what would make this more interesting? If it was a toasty, but couldn't be bothered to get like the sandwich toaster out or anything like that. So I was like, I'll just
Even though you have one of those.
Yeah, I know.
Which is very specifically
Yeah,
designed
but
for this
they're
purpose.
always up on a shelf, aren't they? They're never actually plugged in or anywhere useful.
Well, mine's down on a shelf.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, does it? Because you just pull it out and plug it in, and you don't even have to.
clean it.
You don't even have to. unless
That's a controversial viewpoint.
unless you get severe cheese spillage, you can get away with not.
So moderate cheese spillage is acceptable.
Yeah.
No was giving us some dirty looks here about not cleaning a sandwich toaster.
And even if I think you can at least get away with wiping it down, like you don't even have to do that much if it doesn't have major cheese spillage. Just let it cool off, wipe it down, and that's that.
Can that be my military name?
I mean, you remember what we did with the foreman?
What did we do with the foreman? I mean, there's one sat under my TV still.
Not that one.
The PlayStation.
No, the foreman grill.
The
that we had.
actual foreman.
Oh, okay, yeah, that thing.
that could definitely go without washing. It's like
Yeah, because
it's
things
grease.
actually sort of dripped off fairly well
Yeah,
because of the angle.
and because it's grease, it just heats back up again, and
And you could-
cook it off. It's
And
all
you
good.
could, you know, just towel off.
Yep, paper towel it.
Or, you know, cook chicken on it, where there's practically no grease anyway.
Yes, those kind of devices.
I was thinking again, like, we should get, like, a griddle for the barbecue. For, like, not necessarily for burgers, but for, like,
What's
doing,
a
like,
griddle
big
exactly again?
old bits of meat. It's like, it's basically more metal. You just stick on a hot sauce.
It just makes it more stable to put things
More
on.
metal.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Metal! So, yeah, we're mainly for, like, I guess for doing, like, steaks or, like, maybe some, like, a stable platform for halloumi.
Yeah, that would probably help
Yeah.
for your cheese disasters.
Yeah, they keep falling between the grills.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of cheese probably still in there.
Probably.
Well, we've segued into Kitchen Bitchin'.
Yeah. Well, I think
if
we
that
should maybe
counts.
move on before we continue talking about pizza, and it makes us even more hungry than we already are.
Okay, fair. Well, this is a podcast about video games, and we have news about video games
For a
this
change.
week. For a change.
Stuff happened.
Kind of.
Rob, do the honours.
I mean, yeah, sort of stuff happened. It wasn't exactly like mind-melting reveal week. It's not a proper E3, but Gamescom happened. Which is technically the biggest convention in the world now, I think.
Really?
Like, it's like the amount of floor space needed is way bigger than E3 because it's a public-facing one.
And where is it? It's in Europe, right? It's
Germany.
Germany. Deutschland.
I mean, like, the Prime Minister of the region in which it's held, like, did a speech at the opening ceremony thing,
saying thank you for coming and spending all your money in our town.
Well, pretty much, yeah. It's kind of a big deal for them because I think Germany actually pumps a lot of money into these events, like the government and stuff, to run them and stuff. So it's like it's kind of a thing. But anyway, yeah. What that usually means is that because it's such a large event, we'll get a trickle of information about the stuff they already announced at E3.
Because it's such a large event, we get shit. Because apparently no one actually cares.
The thing is everyone waits for months and months and months until the first big event, which is obviously E3, and it's like, okay, now we can talk about everything. And now this is like a month and a bit later. It's like, what have they got left?
Yeah, but you'd think, like, being this much closer to, like, the holiday season, this would be a better time to advertise your shit, so people don't forget about it like you do with E3.
Maybe. And there are some announcements in Gamescom that are sometimes tailored to the European audience. Like, they were talking about the Halo arcade game, which is not news anymore in America because it's about. Whereas here they were like, yeah, but there was no plans for it to come over here, but it's like, oh, but now there is. But there's not a lot of that because games are global for the most part.
Indeed.
So yeah, there's a drip feed of new information. Where shall we start? That's for some reason my notes have gone to E3. That's not right. Here we go. Right. Let's do possibly the least interesting bit of news that we wanted to talk about for us, anyway.
Okay, reverse order.
Let's talk about the Settlers.
It's a theoretically interesting bit of news, except for they've made like 4 or 5 games that have been bad since 3.
Yeah, so how many of them have we actually played?
Now? Oh, is it the same?
So it is still Blue Byte. Amazingly, it is still Blue Byte, the original studio, the original German studio. They're just owned by Ubisoft now, so they're Ubisoft Blue Byte.
Okay,
but it's the same guys, the same Dr. Drago Madcap Chase developers.
When are they making Dr. Drago's Madcap Chase 2?
Yeah, they absolutely should, man.
Mario Party competitor.
Yeah,
because if they made Dr. Drago as like an async mobile game. Suddenly that thing might find a platform just because how long those games take, right? Like, just make them so they can take even longer.
Maybe.
Drago so the 2. Settlers, what's their plan?
Okay, so two bits of news regarding the Settlers. One, they're releasing the History Edition, which is the previous 7 games, or however many it is.
I assume it's 7. 7 was the last one I heard of.
Yeah, sort of bundled up and made to work on modern computers. Blah 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 blah. So there's sort of. I think there might be a milestone, like 30 years maybe of the Settlers.
Sure, that's probably about right.
Like that. Yeah. So they're bundling that up in a package, and they were like, "Oh yeah, but we've got this other thing we're working on called the Settlers. That's a brand new one, powered by Snowdrop. That's the same that Ubisoft graphics engine they're now doing an EA on, and being like, oh, all of our games have to be Snowdrop powered." I mean, it looked a lot like the Settlers.
I mean, they already did that bad remake of 2, so if they're now doing basically a bad remake of 1...
They did a remake of 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is one.
They tried to do a, basically modern graphics version of 2, but they actually fucked up the game in the process.
Huh. I don't remember that.
It's like the 10th anniversary edition or something, isn't it?
It was one of the anniversaries.
Huh.
That was after 7.
Because 2 is the only one I've played.
Naturally.
And put any real time into.
The good one, yeah.
Yeah. I think I played it before I understood how games like that worked as well. So I spent a very long time just on the same level, not realising where it goes and being quite content.
Exactly.
Just being like, this is going pretty good. I've just got a dude building roads everywhere.
I think every time I played it, every subsequent time I've played Settlers 2, it's like I've got further and further in the campaign and been like, wow, I might actually be able to finish this one day. I might actually have learned how to play this game sufficiently to beat the game after 20-something years.
Yeah, because there was definitely a pretty massive gap between me first playing it, between me then playing it, several years later playing it again and actually understanding what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And not being very good at it, in fairness. I didn't necessarily have the patience required, because Settlers is an incredibly slow-paced game.
I think I could probably say the same thing about Settlers 3, where it's like I didn't necessarily. Comparatively, I understood that one better because it was a more recent game, yeah, I guess. But that one had the problem of like there was a really ridiculous difficulty spike halfway through. I seem to remember, so I don't think I ever finished that either.
It's kind of classic of all sort of strategy games, though, right? There always comes a point where it's just like I can't figure out what puzzle they're throwing at me.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a puzzle. I think it was just like unnecessarily tricky, like. It stacked everything too far in the enemy's favour, and you had to do things very carefully, rather than just moderately carefully.
Just your normal sort of like
normal amounts of care.
Yeah. So is that where you stopped? Did you play any of the?
I played like the demo of 7, and then I was like, "This isn't Settlers," and that was it.
So what's your prediction for this one then? That it's not going to be Settlers?
Well, we'll see. I mean,
it has been a while, hasn't it, since Settlers 7?
Yeah. Maybe, you'll know if you see flags and people walking between them carrying shit. That's how you know it's a Settlers game.
Yep.
I'll tell you one thing.
Making shiny gold coins
yeah.
so that you can actually have a military.
I'll tell you one thing. I think like it didn't look terrible from the little bit they showed. It didn't really look much like gameplay, in fairness. Like it's hard to tell how the gameplay actually functions from a trailer for a game like this, I guess. But it did look like the visuals had lost some character. Because Settlers has had like 5 different characters.
Well, when they got to 7, it basically turned into like it started looking more like Age of Empires style, just like generic medieval.
Here's a brown guy in cloth.
And also, I think
a guy in brown cloth.
From what I remember,
came out very badly.
And this might be like completely me misremembering it entirely and confusing it with different games, but I think Settlers 7 with that aesthetic also was like the main reason why I didn't think it was good for a Settlers game was like it started going in like the Age of Empires building style. Like the whole thing about Settlers is it's basically a hex grid, and that's why why that game worked in Settlers 2, and then in 3 it was like...
But it was an obscured hex grid, right? Like you didn't really...
Well... No, it was still a hex grid.
It didn't show you the grid necessarily. But the placement wasn't in it.
You had to realise it was a hex grid.
Yeah, which is why it looked quite naturalistic when you were playing it, because it's just like, oh wait, there's curving in ways that most games don't.
But the roads clearly went at that angle, though, right?
Yeah.
Of a hex.
And that's why as soon as they went to Settlers 3 and it was no longer grid-based, it was like, this is kind of... I mean, Settlers 3 was close enough to 2 in terms of like the mechanical... like way you built stuff and the way dudes carry shit around and stuff. It was like, okay, this is still close enough, but you've lost the grid. And I think the grid was what made that game work. It was all about carefully positioning things and building road networks to maximise your transport capacity.
Did you levy the same complaint against SimCity? Like when they lost the grid?
Kinda.
That wasn't the only problem with that game, though, was it?
No, clearly not.
SimCity was more a matter of like, they didn't give you enough options to control the things that you wanted to do related to the grid. Like, when you wanted to build 2 parallel roads that were exactly far enough apart to fit in a full width of building zone or whatever, they didn't really give you much guidelines for that. Unlike City Skylines or whatever, where, I mean, SimCity tried to do it, it just didn't do it well. It did it awkwardly. And that's the important thing, when you want to maximise maximum space. Just like the Settlers. Even in Settlers 2, when you realised the mechanism of the hex grid and how, like, when you're building a farm and it's like, okay, you need to leave a certain amount of space for the field, so you need to make sure there's flat land, so you need to build your roads around it and build the entrance road coming out at one angle and all that kind of stuff. You had to think about if you were doing that game more complicatedly. If you were doing it not as the child playing it for the first time and fucking everything up.
The best thing with all those games, like you until you figure out the systems and how things lay out. Like the first time you come across the farm building, for instance, it would have been like, I'm just going to put this here.
Yeah, you just cram it in there because you think it's just a building, but no, you need to leave space in the fields.
So, any level of hype?
Not really.
Okay,
you need to see it.
Yeah, it's interesting that it exists. I'll give it that.
Not that interesting,
but Well, I sort of thought Settlers was dead, right? And like because it has been.
They made 7 of them.
Yeah, but it's like, and I mean that is an interesting question in itself. how did they make 7 of them? It's not exactly been a gangbusters title since maybe 4, or even a noteworthy title since then.
Yeah, but back when it didn't matter so much. You could get away with self-publishing small games.
Except they were kind of marquee titles. Like Settlers 3, I seem to remember was a fairly big deal. Before it came out.
As a sequel
anyway.
of Settlers 2, yeah.
Anyway, the Settlers. Boy, okay, what's next in my least interesting to interesting list?
Let's hope we can skip some.
Yeah, maybe. Let's do Ace Combat, just because I think Dan's only just seen the trailer, so we can get some hot takes.
I mean, my hot take is it looks like Ace Combat.
Exactly.
I mean, they all have stupid. I know it has a crazy anime storyline, but I'm pretty sure they all did. In fact, the one that had a less insane one then obviously wasn't as good.
Was that 6?
Yeah, which was the one where... Do you remember we had the demo when we played... Yeah, that's the one. That's the one where it went slightly more realistic. And I kind of appreciated the variety of having the helicopter thing and stuff, but it's not really Ace Combat that you expect. So they fully embraced that again.
We haven't seen a helicopter.
And, it's got what I was looking for, which is it's got to have the stupid boss kind of,
guy,
giant flying wing of doom.
Oh yeah, but it seems like they're spinning several yarns this time. It's like you've got your Red Baron mysterious pilot guy.
Oh, naturally.
And you've got the Arsenal bird or whatever they call it.
Yeah, Arsenal bird. There's always an Arsenal bird that's going to rain down 1 million missiles or something. It has a giant shield generator.
It looked like drones this time was the thing.
Yeah,
probably. Of course it is.
Yeah. But of course, you can still fly an F-14 Tomcat, which has been retired from the US Navy for 10 years at this point.
Yeah, but it looks badass.
It's the way cooler looking than the modern stealthy looking ones.
I mean, there's definitely a look to this one in particular. They seem to be embracing the sort of idyllic blue skies.
The sun is like that.
I know, but it's just. I don't know. I remember Ace Combat 6 being very brown.
That was the weird one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the last Ace Combat trailer I saw definitely had the classic dramatic behind the back white puffy clouds in the blue sky camera shot type thing that they always do.
Hang on. So this is 7, is it?
Yeah.
So I think that helicopter one must have been 5 or something, because I think they've released at least one in this style since that one.
Oh, really? I thought
maybe it was on the PS Vita or some shit.
Oh, really? Why they did a spin-off one or something?
Well, I think there's a bunch of PSP, PS Vita Ace Combats. Alongside the main ones. Anyway, I'm pretty sure. I
think 6 was 360 era, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I think there's been one since then.
But not a numbered one.
I don't know.
Yeah, Ace Combat 6, Fires of Liberation, was the last one, and that was 360.
Oh, really? It's been that long?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough then.
But that's not to say there hasn't been spin-offs in the middle. But
right. Okay.
I don't know, maybe we're getting confused with Assault Horizon, which was the one before it.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think we've skipped one. We've missed one.
Which I guess would have been 5?
Yeah. I think there's been one.
Yeah, I can't tell from just scan reading Wikipedia. But yeah, you're probably right. It looks more brown.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything was brown in early 360 era. Because the next gen was brown.
Yeah. So it was the 70s of gaming again.
Yeah. That was such a weird time. Cool.
Yeah, Ace Combat. Boy, what else we got? Let's do Demon X Machina. Just because. Have either of you seen any of this? Or
have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
20 seconds of gameplay at some point.
Yeah, because they did that E3 trailer that it was just basically metal.
Yeah.
And this was more of the same. It's but it's metal in a very specific way. It kind of reminds me of it's somewhere in between modern baby metal, shall we say, and like the Hellbender soundtrack, or I don't know, like something like, or like that sort of riff sampled music from like that, like the early 3D game era. I don't know, because it likes to just sort of be playing like a repetitive guitar riff over and over again, and then stop and go. You know, I'm digging it. I'm digging that bit, but the actual like look and feel of the game is starting to look more intriguing. I thought the E3 trailer was a bit weird looking, but this showed some insight into like, okay, so all the mechs don't walk; they sort of roller skate around like jet skates. Yeah, and they can fly a bit, but it's sort of cell shaded, but sort of muted color palette cell shading, and it looks good. Switch exclusive. It's got style.
Okay.
It's like, this is starting to, like, I don't know, it's one of those games that reminds me of, like, when the Wii started trying to be edgy in a way that no one else was. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They're trying, like, it feels like some devs are trying things and Nintendo are letting them.
Letting them, yeah.
Yeah, or encouraging them.
I don't think giant mech combat is that edgy.
No, but there's something about the style of it, like, you know, the way they're presenting it right now, that's really interesting. Whether or not that will actually translate into the game at the end of it is still immensely questionable. But yeah, all I've already said is that it's going to be out in 2019, so we've got a while to wait. Shenmue 3, also we've got a while to wait. That is
less than infinite time, though.
It is, as of today, 367 days away. So August 27th, 2019 will be when it comes out. They've set a date. Shenmue 3 is real.
But a date that's so far away that that's not going to be the date.
That they'll probably move it, yeah. They did put out a trailer for it, and, you know, casually threw in a shot of Ryu meeting main antagonist Lan Di. How
are the faces looking?
It's a bit early for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
They actually done
like 7 game series.
It was more than that. It was like 11 chapters or something that was originally planned, something like that. I think they've changed that somewhat, I think. But yeah, it's like you can't casually drop that in a trailer a year away, surely. Like, where they don't even look that bothered to be in front of each other. They're just sort of like Ryu meets Ryu's face never really looked that bothered.
He's not bothered by anything ever.
Yeah, but
does it move?
I mean, there was facial animation this time.
Wow.
Maybe that bit that they showed was like, maybe he's undercover or something. Maybe he's like, the boss guy is right in front of me, but I can't do anything because this isn't the time.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know, but yeah, I'm sure Lan Di would know.
I don't know, would he?
Because I think the murder of Ryu's dad must have happened not while Ryu was like a kid, right? It happened when he was very close to his current age.
But he also wasn't there.
True. As far as we know. I can't remember. A bit of me does kind of actually want to play those first 2 games again, but I know that'll be like another epic slog.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, now that those remasters are now out on Steam, semi-remasters, like they work on PC now. Yeah, it's real for now. And I'm not sure, we haven't really seen how the game actually plays. And, from its look alone, I don't think it's all that. It's clearly being made on a bit of a budget, I guess. But it looks like the old games with a slightly newer coat of paint.
But the old games looked amazing for the time. That's the problem.
For the time, they were very impressive, yeah. Whereas this now looks too much like that. There's a sort of...
like a retro thing.
Yeah, sort of like the way things move still looks that little bit stilted. What's the word I'm looking for? Stilted. Stunted.
Yeah, stilted is right.
Yeah, just that little bit stiff, that little bit not quite right, and it's.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I can't remember what else I was thinking about watching or that had a similar animation problem. Is that thing where basically it's like the animation frame rate is constant, like motions are just smooth, constant motion. And that's not actually. I mean, it's a smooth animation, but it's too smooth. You haven't accounted for realism.
I know what you mean. It's like the keyframes are quite a distance apart, and it just moves in a constant speed between those 2 points.
Yeah.
Rather than it being eased and things like that.
I can't remember what that was. It was I was watching something that was like pixel art where it was trying to do some like nice, almost in the sort of old school Prince of Persia rotoscope style pixel art motion, except it was clearly not rotoscoped, it was hand animated, which gave it that like too many smooth frames where it's just like, that's not how real motion actually happens. Real motion can be way more abrupt than just like really smooth.
Yeah, no, you mean it's like some games that use like a rendering engine a bit like how Flash animates. Do you know what I mean? Like Scribblenauts might fall into this category a little bit, although that's intentionally like that. But there are some games that have that sort of like everything is just a moving part in some way that they're then.
Well, I don't know about moving parts. It's just like
I mean, that's a weird example because it's pixel art, right? And someone's made it like that.
It's the keyframing problem. The way I imagine it is like you have your start frame and your end frame. And then in order to smooth the animation, you just keep adding frames in between. But you've just added a bunch of frames and then you just run through them at a constant rate. And it's like, that's not really how motion actually works.
Rather than perhaps making a big jump at the start and smaller jumps at the end as something slows down or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. If you just keep dividing the time period and adding another frame in, it'll be well smooth, but it won't be realistic.
Yeah, I think like brawler animations in like 99 Vidas and Scott Pilgrim are good examples of that. Like there's a couple of frames of wind up where the hand like doesn't move all that much.
Yeah.
And then you get like one frame where it's gone all the way out.
Yeah.
And then you get effects going around the hand as the follow up frame. So it's like, a little bit of a swing going on there, which is nice. And it feels better as well. Like, because you get that, whack kind of sensation.
Well, and, you need it to be nearly instant to your button press, ideally.
Nearly instant, yeah. You can have a couple of frames of finesse in most games. And obviously in fighting games, that wind-up is super critical. Because that's technical as well as visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a bit of that. There's a bit of that old school animation going on. I watched a video actually this week about Sonic Adventure 2's cutscenes and how
not as bad as Sonic Adventure 1's cutscenes.
There's that, but it was more about how much worse they got in the ports, like all the rendering errors were introduced and all the lighting issues, and there's way more than I thought there was. Like
what, like the GameCube port, or
the GameCube port is actually kind of terrible when you look at it graphically.
Played, isn't it?
That's the one Zach played. I've got the Dreamcast original, but. And there's clearly some things between the hardware that they couldn't overcome in the time period they had. Like, the game is generally better in terms of stability and the stuff they added. Like, in terms of content, Battle is better. But the actual engine running on GameCube is significantly poorer in some meaningful ways. Although it does run at speed and they do throw in extra objects. It's like polygons don't seem to be the problem. But lighting and texturing and shadows, they seem to have a real trouble on GameCube for some reason, which is weird. Anyway, it was worth a watch. It was quite fun. Also, just to remind me of how kind of generally bad those cutscenes are anyway.
Shouldn't have watched that ahead of us playing it, though.
I know.
It. You've ruined our reactions from the future video series of playing Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure I'm still going to react pretty hard.
Is that your next in line?
No, it's not next in line. Probably.
Who knows? There's plenty of Sonic games to tear apart.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's go Soul Calibur 6. So, this was a tale of two trailers for me. There was the one I saw first was, I guess you call it a story trailer-ish, but it was a little bit confusingly shot, so I've still got some questions about it. It looked like they were going. The upside is it looked like they were bringing back a mode similar to Soul Calibur 2's Edgemaster, like story-ish thing, and it's like, which was clearly the best part of Soul Calibur 2, and I haven't seen any of them since then do anything that was that good. So it's like, they finally got it. They finally put this in. They made it look like the character creator might be actually part of the story, so you're playing as your character rather than as one of the main characters, which could be interesting. Although, again, that could just be the weird way that trailer was cut, talking to me there. But good news, that character creator is back, and it still looks madness. After Tekken 7's was mildly disappointing. And also, it looks like, again, the sort of thing I think I may have mentioned this before, but there was I had the problem with Soul Calibur 6 in all of that I've seen so far, in that it kind of looks like Soul Calibur. And I mean that in the sense that it doesn't look like they've taken the lessons learnt from Tekken 7 and put them in the game. Like some of the cooler stuff, like some of the effects, some of the slowdown, some of the nice camera pans, and some of the just general extra bombast they added to 7 looked like it was lacking. And so my fears of that have been somewhat put to rest, because they do have the slowdown stuff. In fact, they almost look more dramatic now, but not like even in amongst all the weird flashy like trails and sparks and stuff that usually happen in a Soul Calibur game.
Right.
So they have done some of that stuff, and it does look it looks cool to see in action.
That's good.
So yeah, I'm kind of back in on that front. On the core gameplay, I'm back in by the looks of it. However, they're already starting to be annoying in that the game's not even out yet, and they're talking about DLC characters, of which the first one is bloody Tira, who's like my favourite from the last 2 Soul Calibur games. She's the one with the crazy circle blade thing. You know what I mean? The big hula hoop.
Right, yeah.
And she's a DLC character. And it's like, yeah, this game's not ready out. Get hyped for things you can spend more money on, people.
Yeah, great.
Ugh. It's like I hate this practice twofold. One, like selling your DLC before your game is out.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Bad idea. Especially when you're saying, like, yeah, this character's ready to go, but it's not going to be in the game. It's like, it's just a bad look. And also, like, yeah, it's Tira, man. It's like she's been a main character in the last few games since Soul Calibur 3.
Yeah, don't make her
The last
DLC.
2 games.
3, 4, 5.
Well,
3 games.
kind of.
Most of the games, in fact.
I guess.
Although they did say Talim's back, because I don't think she was in 5.
Wait, this is the whole children problem.
Oh, well, yeah, but there wasn't an equivalent.
No.
There wasn't even a Talim equivalent in 5. And it's like, yes, one of my main from Soul Calibur 2 is back. Good stuff. Although I still don't think we've seen, like, Raphael. There's no, like, no good! or whatever. No crazy fencing going on. But yeah, I remain optimistic, but they've already started to show their hand that it's like maybe there aren't that many characters in the base game. Maybe. And you're going to have to pay more for more. Which would suck. Careful, Namco. Careful. Let's touch on... In a similar vein, let's touch on Devil May Cry 5. Like, I kind of want this game to be good, but having played Devil May Cry 4 recently, I am skeptical, to say the least, given how... it's hard to find someone saying bad things about Devil May Cry, except Devil May Cry 2.
Right.
And it's... And I feel a little bit like, what's this really about? Like, why do people really dig it as much as they do? And it's like, and then you watch a trailer for Devil May Cry 5 and you think, okay, stylistically, yeah, I really get it. This is a trailer, like they're actually showing some combat now, and it looks rad. It really like seeing it in action looks pretty great. Like, they've done a proper next gen job on it. Like, there's physics, and you can throw things into buildings, and the buildings will collapse on them, and it's there are weapons that take advantage of your environment, and it looks like they've done what I think was a problem in Devil May Cry 4 by expanding Nero's arsenal, so you've got plenty of options now, rather than being somewhat limited with Nero, and then you play as Dante, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is what the game is supposed to be like. It's like, it seems like they're at least learning from that. But I'm so terrified of the game like having the exact same problem that Devil May Cry 4 is, in that it's just not actually that much of a game in there. And what's there doesn't feel quite refined enough, especially when you put it next to Bayonetta or DMC.
Yeah. Which has become like the gold standard, right? Like the Bayonetta.
The Bayonetta, absolutely, yeah. Even Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is like seen in, it's the same sort of, it's in that field. It's that style of game, and even that's seen as like like a really good one. And to me, that like I really want to play that one because I bet it's better than Devil May Cry 4, just because it's got some Metal Gear in there. So yeah, I remain skeptical. I want to see, like, it'll be one of those where it's like, oh, you've got to read that review carefully. Does it do the backtracking thing in the second half of the game? Because if it does, then it's like, yep, this is nonsense. Am I going to have to play a terrible dice board game in order to get to the final boss? Like, it's like, if that's a yes, it's like, no, all right, you ruined it. Devil May Cry 5. Let's do Gris. I only want to bring this up because it has a very... I mean, we don't know a lot about it. It looks like a 2D to be cynical about it, it looks like a 2D platformer, much in the vein of Journey. Even the character design looks fairly Journey-like.
Journey-ish, right?
Like a cone-style dress and like sticks for arms and legs. However, that art style for the world and how it's all animated looks amazing. It's like it's all hand animated, and it's all like I don't know. I guess very. I'm struggling to find the words to describe it. It's like do you know that style of art where it's? I guess it's almost Beatles album cover-esque in a way, right? Where faces are drawn in quite a lot of detail, but everything else kind of isn't. And then you put like your colouring is almost like a gradient across the lines. I guess is the way you describe it. So instead of all being like a solid colour, it's like they start as like a light blue at the top of the page, and as you go down, the gradient on all of the lines kind of fades into something else, and it looks a little bit tie-dye and a little bit...
okay.
And then you combine it with some really excellent, like everything being hand-drawn, hand-animated in the world and stuff like that, and combine it all together. And it's like, this could be something really special. This could be really good if they nail like the aesthetic. That seems like they've got it down. If the actual gameplay behind it is good too,
yeah, it comes together. Yeah,
this looks like a bit of me. So worth checking out that trailer. It's Gris, just Gris. Weirdly,
Gris. Or is that like gris, like French for grey?
I mean, maybe.
Okay.
Everything I've seen, everyone's been calling it Gris, but.
Okay.
Maybe it is Gris. Gris would make sense. In a similar vein, the Valiant Hearts team are making a new World War story game, like they did, but this time for World War One, called 1111. And again, you really need to see that thing. It's like they haven't shown a lot, and it's hard to get a feel for what the actual gameplay necessarily is. But it's all done in a painted art style, like the whole thing. Do you remember how like the menus and stuff drew in Guild Wars 2, Zach? That sort of like, or even some of the promotional stuff they put on, like those backgrounds are like it looks like someone's done like hard brush strokes everywhere. The whole game looks like that, and it's like a 3D world with a filter over it to make it look like these hard brush strokes. So everything's kind of like permanently out of focus a little bit, but. It's something. It's really something. Like, go check that out. And you know for a fact from Valiant Hearts that these guys know how to treat the subject matter. So, yeah, one to watch, I think. And finally, surprise of the show. Let's talk Windjammers 2.
Okay.
Get hype. Man, get hype.
I mean, is it literally Windjammers 2?
Don't get that hype, though.
I mean, that is the title of the game. It's Windjammers 2. And it looks like it might be a Switch exclusive.
Okay.
Even the remake wasn't that hype, because you can't...
I mean, it's just a remake, right? It was like everyone had that phase of hype when it got discovered again.
Yeah, but you can't beat that kind of arcade... precision.
No, there was a field
when there was all those other remakes that weren't the remake, when other people tried to rip it off. It was like you just can't do it like that. You can't make this a modern game. It has to be a pixel art, two-frame animation.
You're right. It has to be pixel art. It has to be crunchy in an old school way. If they don't get that right, then this isn't going to fly for me. There is something very visceral is an overused word, but there's something very tactile
yes
about Windjammers.
I mean, you could get away with like upping it to well, we've already mentioned it before. You could get away with basically upping it to like Scott Pilgrim level pixel art.
Yeah, you could get away with that for sure. But it's got to have that style. Otherwise, it doesn't feel snappy enough. It doesn't feel like, because what was it? Was it Disc Jam or something? Was the PS4 one that was? In fairness, in its own right, I haven't played it, but like it was considered a fairly good game.
Yeah.
But for something going at that Windjammers market, it's not the same thing. It's got that problem that a lot of 3D games do, where it's just like there's a little bit floaty to it compared to the crunchiness of pixel games.
Yeah.
From that, I don't know, was it it was Neo Geo. From that Neo Geo era, where everything's like in your face, wham bam, disc jam. You know, it's just their trailer seems to suggest that they get it, but they've done it in like super cheesy 80s anime style. In the like, it's not gameplay. This is just a trailer, but this is a tease. But it kind of looks like they get the craziness of it. So there's hope, I suppose. Anyway, Windjammers 2, man. I think there was a lot thought this day would never come.
I don't think a lot were not thinking about it at all.
Well, that's true.
Even fans of Windjammers.
Hard to argue with that stance.
Cool. It's like Gamescom then. What about this Desperado thing? Or?
Yeah, we can briefly talk about that if you want. Apparently Desperados is a tactics game of yore that like I've never come across before. And this is kind of a reboot of it. Like it was a franchise or something. Like I honestly have no idea when or how it was or whatever. I know nothing about this. The trailer they showed was kind of a little bit misleading because it was like a CG trailer of them saying like doing a game loop, be like, here's a situation, here's how you could face it. Oh, it went bad. Try it again. Like they said, it'd be a bit different this time. You'd have more help, and there'd be different things happening, and and none of that was really all that interesting. Up until there was a cat that seemed to mind control someone, and it's like, okay, this has taken a slightly strange turn. And then we actually got to see some of the game. So the game itself is it's by the same team that worked on Shadow Tactics, which is like a top-down. I want to say, did one of us play Commandos?
I tried to play Commandos 2 at some point.
Right.
This past.
So it's that, like, it's that style for sure.
Yeah, well, that depends exactly how like close to that side.
Yeah, how mechanically it seems.
It's like the difference between Commandos and XCOM is actually quite different.
Yeah. So
even though they look quite similar.
So from what I can tell, it's more in the Commando style, and that there doesn't seem to be a grid. It's like you can, when you're firing your shots, for instance, they show like a cone of effect. If you're firing a shotgun, for instance, then you can like sort of plan. And I couldn't quite work out if it was turn based or real time. Like I don't know, like if you could pause and then, or if it's like the pause and go sort of action. Where it's like pause, choose what everyone's doing, then execute. But I can't think of many games that have tried to do this in the Western theme, other than maybe the old Desperados games, wherever the hell they were. So, I don't know, for tactical players that I guess Zach is and maybe Dan would be at times, this might be worth a shout, especially given that, Dan, you like Westerns.
I mean, I like Red Dead.
Exactly, yeah.
And Western is like a criminally underused, well, was before Red Dead, like setting for video games. It's pretty perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot I can think of, but it's like a lot of relatively recent indie titles have had a sort of Western theme to them, but not many like big screen games have try it. Do you know what I mean? Not many AAAs go for it.
No. You
got your Red Dead, and I guess we had that Call of Juarez Gunslinger many a year ago that was doing that in an arcadey sort of way. All those old arcade, like the FMV arcade games. You know the ones I mean, where it's like,
yeah,
I can't remember what they were called. Well, the problem now is I'm just remembering there was that Kinect game on 360 that had had a takedown of those old games, the like Wavy Tube Man or something.
That was the DLC.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Gunstringer.
Gunstringer, that was it. Yeah.
Wavy Tube Man Chronicles, was it? Or...
Yeah. And it was basically just one of those FMV shooting games. Like, they probably should have sold that thing separately from Gunstringer. Yeah, and that was that, really. That's all I know about it at this point. Presumably there'll be more detailed analysis if you go digging. It's the trouble with tactics games, they're hard to show. It's the trouble with the settlers.
Yes.
You've got to get your hands on it, sink some time into it.
So, that's the Gamescom show, or at least the things that we care to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot more happened, but I would argue that not a lot of it was all that interesting.
Yeah.
Don't watch the Inside Xbox show, for instance. It's not a press conference. It's kind of tedious.
But there was a press conference, unrelated to Gamescom, I presume, from NVidia.
Yeah, this predated Gamescom by like a day. Where they've finally announced a new series of graphics cards. Get your wallets at the ready. These things
Prepare your
pricey.
So what are they called? RTX, is that right?
The RTX, and they're also calling it the 20 series. So they're not doing 11 cards. They've jumped from 10 all the way to 20.
Wow.
Because numbers, I don't know.
Because numbers, yeah.
So on paper, these things are... NVIDIA are claiming a 6 times performance jump this generation over the last generation of cards. So
what?
Yeah,
like,
I think...
What, comparing like apples to apples, like for like.
That was the. I mean, maybe I'm misremembering that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that number jumping around where they were like just in terms of. I guess maybe that's in raw flops or whatever they use.
Okay.
Like, so if you compared a 1080 from this series to a 1080 from that series, the jump is roughly 6 times or something like that.
Okay.
It sounds like a lot.
That sounds weird. Was it really? It can't have been a 6 times jump from a 980 to a 1080. Maybe.
I doubt it.
No, I doubt it. Anyway, okay, well, fair.
I would say NVIDIA are always making up ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
Like all their patch notes where it's like 25% improved performance in Tomb Raider, and it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what performance in what scenario, in what case, like under what circumstances? And it's like, because I think the architecture, like, it's one of those series jumps where the architecture is quite different this time. So you could argue that, what is it, the 8, 9s, and 10s were relatively similar. Like the 8s were their brand new GPU design, and then the 9s and 10s built on it. Sort of. And I think they're claiming that these 20 designs are actually significantly different.
These are new, are they? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough to the point where it makes a thing. So, I don't know.
It's not always good to get the first generation of the new thing, though.
No. So, I got burnt, remember when I bought the 880? Was it the 880?
Yeah.
I had? And it was, the drivers were not there. Like, it was, it was awkward. Because it was awkward for a number of reasons. Because the 880 came out at the same time as the launch of Windows Vista, which required a dramatic different driver set as well. You know, the driver language was changing effectively, like, and the driver permissions and all that stuff was going through a bit of an upheaval from XP. And so the 880 drivers were focused on Vista and were terrible on XP for a long time. And then they eventually sorted it out. But so, yeah, risky. But I guess you're not tied into... I guess we know Windows 10 is fairly cemented, and we know that's not going away, so maybe that's less of a problem this time.
Probably.
Yeah, so there's that. And I guess the big tech demo they're showing this time is ray traced reflections.
Yeah.
So real-time ray tracing is their big push for this series of cards. And there's some almost too impressive demos going on. It's like, could it really do that? Because if it can, then that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like the Battlefield 5 stuff they showed, where
so
it's
I did watch this. Yeah.
Yeah. The sides of cars will be reflecting like flames and the people running past, and it's like, how far does this ray go? Because ray tracing is expensive for a reason, because it's got to be rendering stuff out of shot.
Yeah,
which is not something normal cards are designed to do. Even in the way they currently do reflections,
well, the rays
it's often
go
fudged in some way.
Let me remember how it works, right? The rays go the opposite way of like actual light. They go out of your eyeballs.
Yes. So ray tracing, ray tracing works sense. By like taking the pixel point on the shot you're trying to produce.
Yeah.
Projecting the ray out of it.
Right. So they're only drawing the fire when it's being reflected, right? Is that right? Because you're looking at the glass and a ray comes out of your camera, it to the glass, bounces off and then goes out of shot, and then it knows to draw that thing that's out of shot. I know it's really expensive, but at least it's not to draw everything all the time, right?
I mean, I guess this is where it like conflicts with regular rendering techniques, right? Because if it's like if that ray bounced off and hit a polygon, then the graphics card suddenly needs to figure out how to render that polygon.
Yep.
And any effects that may apply to that polygon, and any texturing that may apply to that polygon. The whole
shebang, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, thinking about it, like, can you, I mean, in Battlefield 5, it looked really good, but, I mean, can you just do, if it's just for reflections, can you just do it, like less well? You know, does it matter if it doesn't look... Do you know what I mean? Like in reflections in general, sometimes, like when you have reflections on a body of water, there was that old trick where the reflections are like half
screen space reflections, they call them.
Yeah, or whatever.
There's that one, and there's also that they're effectively using what's on screen to generate the
yeah. But what if you just rendered them at a lower resolution and frame rate or whatever from the rays? I don't know if you could save that way.
You probably could. That sounds feasible, yeah. Because you're absolutely right. During the early days of games trying to do that sort of real time reflection updating, we're definitely doing that.
I mean, you still get racing games, I'm sure, where the mirrors the bonnet like reflect at half frame rate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like not ray trace, that's screen space.
I think Forza Horizon 2 was still doing that. In fact, like some of the updates weren't even on a 30 frames per second game. Some of them weren't up to speed. No, maybe I'm thinking Forza 5. Forza 5 probably did that. Yeah.
There's no denying that looks really cool. That Battlefield 5 ray traced thing. And it was real time as well. Although who knows how many cards they had hooked up together.
To actually succeed that.
Yeah.
And there was someone definitely made the comment at some point that it's like they're actually having to think about this sort of reflection tech because they're worried it might give a competitive advantage.
Oh, for sure.
You're like, suddenly I can actually see around this corner because I can see the reflection.
Oh,
of the
I
eye
see.
Coming
To
up.
The players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's cool. Really cool.
It is cool, but it's like for those that can, you suddenly got the haves and have not problems, where the haves definitely have.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
can see things that the other players can't.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's interesting.
I guess that happens with all new tech. Well,
but that happens with like draw distance. At a certain point.
Yeah.
But then draw distance is never a problem, is it? They just change it for LOD now, and it's
Like, I guess you really could spot something reflected in a puddle that someone else wouldn't notice or something.
I mean, what if you were looking at the floor, like picking up a gun from the ground, for instance, and then it's like suddenly you see something in the reflection of the puddle you're looking at, and it's like, oh god.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting if they can really get this into current gen games or next year games. With these cards, because that is like genuinely something new, which is quite nice.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's something consoles can't do, as well. Although, you
imagine there must be some sort of specific hardware on this thing that's like designed to do something like that.
Because it used to be that with the ray trace stuff, like. All the optimizations in the GPU did nothing for ray tracing, so you might as well, like, if you're running ray trace Quake, which you could, you just ran it on the CPU, didn't you? You didn't even use the graphics card. So they must have.
Well, I mean, ray tracing in theory, like real-time ray tracing, can work well on a. You probably would work better on a GPU rather than a CPU anyway, just because of the parallelization, right? Like each ray is an individual process that doesn't need to really interact with any other rays.
You'd think so, right? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know much about graphics pipelines.
No. Honestly, the ins and outs of it are a lot messier than they once were.
So, very cool, very expensive, not going to be
very
mature.
expensive. But yeah, because boy, these things like that. So they've already announced the TIs, which is unusual. Like the TIs are normally like a couple of years after or a year after the main card has come out.
It took ages for the 1080 Ti to be announced.
Exactly, yeah.
So I was kind of waiting for it at the time.
They're that confident, I guess, about this that it's like, yeah, our TIs are coming out immediately for £1,100.
Yep.
For a graphics card, like that's not like
I feel like
a Quadro or a
any
professional.
difference than it was the last time.
It definitely is, because I picked up my 1080 wasn't.
Yeah, but that's not a TI.
It's not a TI, no, but
I'm pretty sure the TIs the last time round were at least a foul.
No, they were like 800, but it's still a lot.
yeah.
And also the problem was
that's
that
the
they were
base
going
price.
for like more than their RRP because of the fucking Bitcoin miners, so you couldn't actually
Yeah.
buy them.
Apparently that's mostly died down now. So
Right,
like,
okay.
all the Bitcoin stuff. So the regular 2080 is 749, which from memory, I seem to remember the 1080s launched at about 600. So even the base 2080 is quite a jump.
But we have got to a point where it's like the base one will do you 4K, right? Is
In
that
theory,
true
yeah.
now?
With this round, yeah, it should be okay.
Maybe 60 if you're lucky. Right, I guess it depends, right?
Yeah, because they recommend most games that like tout 4K 60 are talking about, you know, you need a 1080 Ti for this.
Yeah.
So it's like your base 2080 should be able to beast it with current graphics levels. Let's always put that in perspective.
Yeah.
But
maybe not too much of the ray tracing.
No.
The base one, yeah.
Well, yeah, imagine like if you're doing 4K, then like that might be a good candidate for like only doing 1080 ray tracing.
Yeah.
Whilst running 4K everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they are a lot of money, but it looks like a lot of power.
Yeah.
The thing is those 1080s, I mean, I guess because there was no competitor, I get like the ATIs didn't, I don't think, quite got to the 1080 Ti's oomph. So I don't know if NVIDIA really have competition in this space.
No.
Like, you know, so what would drive the price down? Because the 1080s are still, the price is still up there, right? And obviously the Bitcoin thing happened, which helped, like, gave the longevity that NVIDIA would want, I guess, out of these things. But
I guess maybe if AMD, because what are they going to stop making the 1080 series? Because like then there'll be no cheap
I think they've
option.
already stopped. Yeah.
Then there's no option above under 750 quid, is there? What do you do?
I mean, there is a 2070.
Right.
So there is a, like, you know, the 70 series
Oh, right,
has come
okay,
out at the same time.
okay.
But that is still £569.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
So there's no, like, mid-range card anymore, I would say. I would consider all of those high-end price
Quite
tags.
high-end, yeah. I can't remember how much, because mine's like a 970. Really good card. It can't have been more than like 400 odd. At the time.
970? I don't think that was
Maybe
ever
less.
that much.
Maybe less,
Yeah.
yeah. I got it new, obviously. Maybe less. Yeah.
Before I had a 670 before my 1080, and I'm pretty sure that was only a couple hundred.
Yeah, anyway.
I say only.
But there
Graphics
is
cards are still
inflation to
expensive
take into
compared to
account
consoles.
a little bit, like, but not that much, but probably a lot more after Brexit. The pounds are not going to be worth anything.
There was the classic fight, like, erupted online about, hey, the US prices are like 20% more than the UK prices. It's like, hey guys, American prices are quoted without sales tax.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Jeez.
But yeah, it could be big news for PC gaming anyway. And who knows, this kind of tech jump may direct future consoles, or perhaps it will steer them more towards ATI because, you know, AMD ATI stuff is considerably cheaper, and so it might actually be the better option for putting in a home console.
Well, they're all fully AMD, aren't they? Right now?
Yeah, both platforms.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Except Nintendo, because that's running on NVIDIA kit.
Yeah, of course, but that's like the mobile NVIDIA kit, right?
The Tegra stuff.
Yeah, which was genius plan. work perfectly for the Switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the future's an interesting one. They've got to do something about those prices. Bitcoiners won't care. Bitcoiners will buy them in droves. Although I was sort of been watching the markets, as you do, for Bitcoins, and I was expecting a spike, like when these cards came out, and they were like, it's like they're so much more powerful than before, and like surely all the crypto guys would be like, yes, we can milk this, and we can make so much more money now.
Well, should it be the opposite, right? If everyone can then mine more Bitcoin more quickly, then maybe the value of Bitcoin would go down. I don't know, but it gets harder. That's the way it works, isn't it? It gets harder over time anyway to mine a Bitcoin. So. Sure,
but then doesn't it isn't it? I don't know. Isn't it one of those things where would it be considered more people investing in Bitcoin? I suppose if miners, I don't know. Anyway,
I think they just adjust it. Don't they? They just adjust it to the kind of power of computing, the present power of computing, right? Yeah.
Anyway, none of that happened. It's like it stayed constant. Or constantly declining, as crypto markets have been over the last since January.
Yeah. Okay, well, interesting.
And that was the news.
Yeah, not going to affect us for a long time because you've just got a really powerful card. I'm not in the market for PC stuff.
I mean, the 1080 is fine. It's like
it's really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, especially because you have a 1080p monitor, right?
Oh yeah. So I'm not pushing. Most games I'm still running at a comfortable 120 frames.
Yeah.
With most things turned on. Most things. I would like. I am. I am the sort of market that would be considering a 4K TV, but that's 4K 60. So if I'm running like 1080 120 all the time, it's like maybe I can pull off like a halfway house like most of the consoles do, like a 1440 or something like that, and still benefit from my 1080. But for those looking to really get the latest and greatest, here you go, 2080. Surprisingly little talk about HDR on PC still.
Yeah,
it's got to be noted. I think it's possible now, but it just seems to not be really discussed.
It's a bit weird because it's quite a boon for those 4K TVs, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, HDR is probably a bigger thing than...
Because if you're going to buy a freaking grand's worth of graphics card, you probably want a freaking massive G-Sync 4K HDR monitor, right? Otherwise, what's the...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Does NVIDIA stuff support FreeSync?
I don't know. I think...
Because there are a few TVs out there now that actually have FreeSync in them.
Oh, really? Well, that should go into consoles then.
Like, I've shifted my desired TV to a Samsung Q9F, which has FreeSync built in. The FreeSync thing isn't colouring my decision-making. It's like it's just a beautiful screen. But yeah, it just happens to have FreeSync, and it's like, can NVIDIA support that? That would be amazing if it could. Because then I could run stuff at 4K, have FreeSync. Frame rate judder would be less of a problem because it would be FreeSyncing it away.
Isn't FreeSync like another name for like it's actually just part of the DisplayPort standard or something, isn't it? Or something. So is that right? I can't remember.
I think it was an open source variant.
Right, yeah.
That's why it's called FreeSync.
Yeah.
But whether it's part of a standard or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway. Right. Cool.
But yeah, that would make the argument for like dips below 60 being acceptable because you'd probably notice them a lot less because it wouldn't cause noticeable frame judder. So there. Truth.
Right, I think that's the news.
That is the news. Good bit of news.
And it's time for what you've been playing. So let's welcome to the stage Zachary Burgess.
Yeah.
Zucky B.
Finally, I actually have something to say, even though it's not actually new, I guess. Oh, I do have one new thing, I guess. Except not really.
How does the NVIDIA card affect your PC plans? Because you're thinking of building a new PC.
Like, I'm in this annoying, phase between like the prices have just started coming down after the crypto mining thing, but now they're going to start. The old cards are going to start going up as they become scarce, but then the new cards are too far up above that.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be screwed again.
Unless you go Ryzen.
Ugh.
Get some AMD kit.
Yeah, I don't really want to.
No, I'm with you there.
Not on a PC. So yeah, I played a bunch of Factorio as usual.
Wait, Ryzen are their CPUs?
Yeah, they're the CPUs,
Yeah.
They might be worth looking at, Zeg. The CPUs. Anyway, if you want to run some seriously big Factorio levels, you might want to run
Yes,
some
exactly.
CPU.
That's all CPU. No GPU involved. Except it is kind of GPU. Kind of. I've definitely reached the point in my C-block game where if you zoom out fully, the frame rate starts dropping. But that's because it's tied to the game update rate, so that is still technically CPU.
Right, yeah. The game loop is suffering because it can't figure things out fast enough.
Yes. But yeah, after many, many hours of planning, I'm finally at the point where I'm basically just building everything, and then I'm going to be screwed because I'll be out of power. I just like every time I've been building these modular base elements, I've been like, okay, I've built designed this whole module that's just going to make iron, and then I've laid it out, and then I've placed it down, and then you connect it up to power, and it turns on, and it makes all the iron, and I'm like, okay, I'm running at pretty much maximum power off just that one, and then I've built 20 of them, and I'm like, yeah, as soon as I plug all this in, I'm just going to be completely fine. But luckily, running out of power in Factorio isn't as bad as you might imagine it is, because it just makes everything run slower proportionally to how much your power grid is overloaded. So technically I'll be okay. It will just be really annoying for a while in the first couple of research, because really I could theoretically build a nuclear power station at the moment, but it would be, I don't have fuel reprocessing, so I can't do anything with the leftover fuel, and so it's not really very efficient, and I'd have to build a bunch of stuff to make extra uranium, whereas if I have fuel reprocessing, you can reprocess the fuel and basically get more fuel out of it. It's way more efficient once you have that technology. So I'll probably have to suffer with really bad power grid for that technology that I haven't got yet. And then once I get that, I'll have to design a proper nuclear station, and then that will solve all the power problems forever, hopefully. Because nuclear is well overpowered. Literally. Although, unfortunately, it does also mean that I'll have to design one from scratch rather than just using the blueprint that I have for the basic power station design that I've used in vanilla Factorio. Because with the C-block modifications and this weird different version of fuel reprocessing, it's gonna have to design that from scratch again. But hopefully what I'll be able to do is make that modular, except not in the same way as I've been making these modular modules. It'll be It'll be stacked, where you can just add another 2 reactors on top of just build a big long line of reactors, basically, because they have adjacency bonus. So basically the most efficient way is to just build an infinitely long, too wide reactor line. So if I could just design 2 reactors next to each other with all the steam works, all the turbines and whatnot, just stamp that down over and over. Infinite power. Hopefully. That'll be the idea.
Infinite power? Yeah,
exactly. So there's that. Still chugging away at Factorio. It's been really annoying to have to resist going to play new games of Factorio. Because I've been watching the occasional video of people doing new mods or updated mod packs, and I'm like, I really want to play that, but I know if I do that, I'm never going to finish this fucking C-block game, and I really want to actually finish the C-block game.
How many hours do you think you put into this one game? Of C-block? Not let alone your...
Well, there's been 2 games of C-block, so,
right, yeah.
Probably twice as much.
Hundreds upon hundreds of hours, I'm sure.
I don't know if it's hundreds upon hundreds. Might be hundreds.
God, man. That's madness.
Although, it's hard to get an actual estimation of the in-game timer because a lot of that... And, there's also the time where you're not necessarily playing the game.
Yeah.
You're doing calculations, and I'm in my Excel spreadsheet, and working out the maths before I place it all down.
They're literally engineering.
Yeah, I guess. Luckily, I think I finally got to the point with my Excel spreadsheet where I've basically got a default, like, formatted thing where you can just copy and paste it and just input the numbers and it does all the calculations for you. So, like, when you're putting in, like, speed modules or efficiency modules, I can just, in a singular box, I can type in how many speed modules, how many efficiency modules, and it automatically propagates that through all the calculations and down the chain of different resources so it stacks, and then I can just be like, yeah, instant maths. Don't have to think about that any longer.
No Excel delays, those sorts of calculations.
Still do have to, enter in every resource every time. I wish there was some easy way to store that. You almost need it to be like a flow chart almost, where you can just like drag and drop. Here's the iron recipe, just drag and drop that in and connect it to what the ins and outs are. That would be way more convenient than Excel, but eventually you're just making this whole other program to run this other program.
It's like when you were toying with me about writing Eve resource calculators.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like here's a tool for actually playing another tool-like game.
I mean, theoretically, the Eve resource calculations is still like you could do that in Excel to a certain extent. It just wouldn't be as convenient as having a proper database and everything. Because that's why the Excel sheet is slow, because you're basically creating everything from scratch every time, apart from the calculations. You still have to input all the resources. You still have to look at the recipe and be like, okay, this is the output, these are the two inputs, and then you propagate the two inputs further down the chain.
You don't necessarily recall. I mean, yeah, a whole.
It's like you can copy and paste some of it if it's the same, but not all of it.
Not without writing macros to start doing the job.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. We've also started finally getting around to Stardew multiplayer. So we got back into that. And that is pretty much how you would expect that to function. Except it still has, like, things that... Well, for a start, it still has things that are basically bugs. And I'm like, what? How did this take so long? And it's still got these weird, like, kind of bugs. And the bugs that are, like, kind of similar to how it was in the multiplayer mod. That was, like, real glitchy in itself. Like, the main example has been that when you're I'm not sure how it works between, like, the host and the other players, but what's been happening for me, I'm hosting, is I'll be out somewhere in the world, just doing whatever, and the other player goes into the mines, and it starts playing the mines music, but I can hear it. Like, the mines music overwrites my music for no apparent reason.
Okay.
I'm like, what? Like, I was standing outside fishing in the rain, and it has the nice atmospheric rain noise, and then the rain noise stopped and it started playing the mines music, and I'm like, oh, they've gone into the mines apparently. I can tell from the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
And then the other problem it has in the multiplayer, which is another thing where it's like, it feels like they should have fixed this during the testing process, I guess, or decided a better way for this to work, is there's still some parts of it where, like, progression does share and doesn't share kind of, like, almost randomly, but not randomly. Like, you all have the money is pooled, which is fair enough, that makes sense, because you're still technically only running one farm, and you're chucking all the exports into one export box, so your money pool is shared. Then, like, your character progression is individual, but that also includes stuff like buying the backpack upgrades and tool upgrades and stuff, and that's still fair enough, I guess. But then when you get to the mines, where you go down the different levels of the mines, and you have to reach every 5 floors there's an elevator, so you have to, if you make it 5 floors, you can start from that point again the next time or whatever. That, for some reason, is shared. So once one person has gone down the mines, anyone can just access the elevator and go to that point. Which makes sense if you want to, like, team up to go through the mines. But it's also, like, this weird, like, skips a bunch of progression.
So, but is that a problem? Is how to study what? Like, are you not progressing as a team then? Or
well, you could argue that. Well, I guess you're not getting the experience points to leveling up your combat level. if
Right.
you're not fighting.
Sure.
You do get the items, because every 10 levels there's a chest, so you can just basically go to the elevator and just jump every 10 levels and just get the stuff for free.
Right, yeah.
So you're not missing out on like the weapons and defensive armor stuff that's in those chests, so you're still as effective in combat apart from the skill.
Are the mines rerunnable, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, you're kind of not missing out, it's just weirdly like lets you do that.
You just can if you want.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that works out. I don't know. Maybe there's less repetition involved, like if your team's helping you. But yeah, maybe the combat level. Maybe it's tuned in such a way that it's like if your combat level is down, like it's based on the team's overall combat level.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just like generic. In fact, I'm not
this
sure.
floor is this level.
Yeah, I'm not sure it does any scaling. There is one bit of scaling that is overall in the whole game that you set when you start the save file. You can choose to reduce the profit margins to make it more, like, if you have more people, because obviously you can do way more work, you can set the profit margins down so it's not quite so ridiculous. And we set it proportionally, there's two of us, we set it down one step to 75%,
Okay.
which maybe we should have turned it down more, because because default Stardew, it's not difficult to make a shit ton of cash, and with two of us at 75%, it's not difficult to make a ton of cash, which I guess proportionally makes sense.
Yeah.
We've made it as difficult as it would have been in single player.
Or shouldn't you be 50% up over what you'd be doing in single player?
Theoretically, but I would assume that it's because you can do more work, but you don't really progress any faster, so you're not necessarily able to do the more expensive things any quicker, I guess you could say. You still have to go through the seasons, you still have to unlock the crops and the ones that unlock at a certain point. Like, there's still a certain rhythm to the way you progress through
The
it.
time of the game is still important.
It just, and, each person still wants to do their own thing to some extent. Like, you have your own fishing log, so you want to catch all the fish. So
I see, yeah.
everyone's still going to want to do their own day's worth of fishing. And yes, that fish is worth money, but it's still energy you could have been spending to do something else, I guess.
Surely it's a nice little competition. It's like first person to catch all the fish. Lifetime goal.
Yeah, I guess. So I don't know how we'll go with that. We've already run into the problems of the classic multiplayer problem of who's designing this thing.
Right, yeah. Your big pet peeve.
Yep, my Factorio problem. It's not so bad in Stardew because, you just put crops down. Although we did kind of like naturally start being like, this is my half of the field, this is your half of the field. That just kind of happened mainly because you're expending your energy. So obviously at the start of the day, you do 50% of the watering each. And it was just like, well, that just makes sense. But then that kind of turned into, I'll deal with the crops in this half of the field and replant them and whatever and buy the seeds, and you do that half. Not just the watering.
So you're actually growing twice as much?
You could say that, yeah, I guess, because you have twice as much energy to spend on watering, so you can grow twice as much.
Do you have the space, I guess?
No, well, it's not a bigger farm, but arguably you don't use most of that farm until well late in that game anyway. So yeah, we're doing that. We haven't really seen any of the new stuff yet. There's a couple of new festivals, event type things since the patch.
Just added for the multiplayer stuff, or
no, I think they're just base game stuff that's been updated.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll get to that eventually, I'm sure. Don't know. It's the same problem that we had when we were playing the mod, where it's just like, I can't actually remember how many years we got in on the mod. I think we only got into the middle of year 2, because technically the ending of that game, except it's not an ending because it's infinitely continuable.
Sure.
The ending happens in year 3, so I'm not sure whether we got to that when we played it in the mod, and I'm not sure we'll get to that again. But you never know. Maybe this time we will. It'd be nice because I still have achievements to get in that game that are, the end game achievements. Catch all the fish, cook all the food.
This would be an excuse to actually go do it.
Yeah, although...
Well, as I say, make the fish a competition thing.
Again...
Encourage each other again.
I feel like that's not going to happen, though, because that's how this multiplayer stuff goes.
Yeah, someone falls off.
Someone falls off eventually before everyone else. So the multiplayer save file never gets finished. Although, Stardew, you can always go back, I guess.
And, for a lot of people, it's a pain in the arse to actually organise that sort of thing.
Yeah. So there's that. And then I guess the new thing to talk about, even though it's not really a new thing because it's a demo. Played the demo of Valkyria Chronicles 4 on Switch.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you played it, Rob?
I haven't, but,
What?
No.
What are you doing?
It's
on Switch as well.
I know, but I'm playing Final Fantasy 15 and it's taking all of my time.
Yeah, that probably would. It's a Final Fantasy game, take a lot of time. But yeah, Valkyria Chronicles 4. You want to say it's one of those games, except it's one of the one game.
It's one of that
It's not
one
the
game.
other two games where they fucked up the formula.
It's one of that one game where it was good.
Yeah.
There's 3 other games. There's
Oh,
two,
yeah.
3, and
Spin-off.
that, and the weird. I forget even what it's called. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's not a proper Valkyria game.
Well, apparently this is the one that's not a proper Valkyria game because this one and the first one are now in the minority.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. But it's very much that first game then.
Well, maybe too much though.
Oh, okay.
Like it still suffers from the same awkwardness of the menus and the controls and all that stuff. It's like it's got basically the exact same UI and the same push up on the right stick to zoom in the scope for no apparent reason because we decided that was a thing.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to want to shoot at maximum zoom because that increases your accuracy.
Oh, does it?
Well, functionally, because the target reticle circle hit zone gets smaller compared to your target if you zoom into full. So obviously you're always going to zoom into full.
Just always zoom in. Yeah.
It's like that's
I can see the white of your eye.
Yeah.
I can shoot at the white of your eye, but I know it's going to hit.
I mean, the only reason it does that is because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see what you were aiming at before you zoomed in. You do need to be able to have the zoomed out view to actually tell where you're looking. Because that's how the way the aiming mode works. I guess. Through scopes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's maybe a little too similar. The thing is, obviously it's set in the same war because that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, it's an alternate
World War II.
squad, isn't it? I forget their names, but main dude and main lady, that's happening somewhere else.
Well, I mean, because it makes sense for it to be set in the same war because you wouldn't come up with a whole new, and you just have to come up with a weird alternate World War III, but then that's not really the idea of alternate history. You want it to be historical. So I guess they kind of, unless they wanted to go back to the First World War, then...
Or do alternate Vietnam or something. That would be
or something like that.
But the whole point is that it's not they don't have much in the way of flying things, or
No.
they said they sort of do, but they don't use them in these conflicts.
But yeah, so they it's in that same war, and it's not in Gallia, the Switzerland.
Right, yeah.
It's not there any longer. But the thing is...
But you're the same force? You're on the same
Well,
side?
no, you're in the Federation. So you're in the Allies, basically.
Right.
Now.
Because your uniform and all that looks kind of the same.
Well, not really. It's actually quite different.
Oh, is it?
It's more... And also it's brown rather than blue. Because it's the Federation
Oh,
colours.
yeah. No, you're right.
But so you're in the Federation now, but... You're in a squad that is made up primarily of Gallians. Because, obviously, with the Gallia being neutral at the start of the war, all the people who wanted to fight signed up into the Federation. So now you're a Gallian squad in the Federation army.
Right. Is it an honour?
I guess.
Sorry, that's a bit of a silly joke.
Haven't got to that yet.
Yeah.
Haven't got to the princess.
That was a silly joke from the first game, because it's you'd get...
You get honours, and they were an honour.
Yeah, so the medals were honours, and it was I present you with this honour, and then your character would say, it's an honour.
That's genius.
It's
yes, it is.
Correct.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that you're a squad of Guardian people in the Federation, and you're talking about how your hometown was one of the border towns that gets fucked up when Gallia gets invaded. So that's your motivation to become better, I guess. And also, I like how you're in the Edinburgh army because alternate history the UK is called Edinburgh.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Right. That's weird. You'd think they'd call it
why...
like Bretagne or something.
Because that's like...
Or like, there's loads of Albion or something.
None of the other countries in this alternate history use the normal names.
Anglasia.
Yeah. It's like they've just for some reason decided to use Edinburgh, even though that's a real one.
That's really
it's
weird.
Just now that it's been upgraded to a country instead of a city.
And borough means town.
Is it spelled?
No, it's not even spelled weird, it's spelled the same.
Oh. Weird. That is a strange choice. I bet they just wanted to go to the castle. Right?
Well,
and maybe that'll be in the game.
But yeah, and then it's apart from that, it's basically the same. You do the Valkyria Chronicles things.
But that's cool, right?
There's a new class of unit, I guess. That's new. The Grenadier, which is basically a mortar, even though they call it a Grenadier, but whatever. Which has slightly different mechanics. It's weird because, I mean, first of all, it's reaction fire, but like projectile reaction fire, so it can shoot things that it can't directly see, so that someone else can see it.
So reaction fire is a bit like Overwatch from XCOM, right? In that if one of your guys moves in front of them. Yeah, except now with the mortars, it's like way more ranged, which is maybe a bit powerful. I've like the small amount that I've played against Grenadiers, it seemed like that's really difficult to deal with. And they also use the visibility of others. Yeah, it's not even their line of sight, it's anyone's line of sight, as long as it's in their range. Which is tricky. And also, that doesn't seem to be shown, which would help. Like, if there's... Because you start moving, and as soon as you move into range, you start hearing the mortars coming. So you have to kind of, like, estimate where the edge of their range is by being like, okay, I can't go any closer than that, so if I skirt round the sort of circular area of where they probably are, that'll be safe. I don't know if that sounds all that fun. But on the plus side, when you get to use them, they're real useful. Of course they are, yeah, because they sound ridiculously powerful. They do have a slightly weird twist on the reaction fire mechanic, because you remember how in the first game, the trick to it was, as soon as you go into aim mode, everyone stops shooting. Yes, so like... Being so you run out there into the direct line of sight of all the enemies, but as soon as you go to aim mode, they stop shooting at you so you can shoot them. Because you're effectively on like a wait mode. Yeah. And it's like, this is what I would have done at this point in time. So that was the convenience of that. But now they've subverted that with the Grenadiers, because when you move the Grenadiers and they pack up their mortar, when they stop to put the mortar back down, that sequence still happens in real time. So you can't leave them in direct line of fire. Oh, I see. Interesting. Yeah, because I'm not sure. Did it work like that when you fired like the Lancer rockets? No, they were just like the same with the aim mode. You hit the button and it just goes into the Lancer view. Right. And so it didn't take, like, when they actually fired it, there wasn't like a real time. No, there was no actual time to it, and there still isn't with the Lancers in this. It's just the Grenadiers, they have their setup time. But like, that's kind of interesting. But why would they be that close to the enemy anyway, really? I mean, that's the whole point. Yeah. I guess it means if they were running around, they suddenly couldn't. It's to prevent them becoming combat effective. Yeah, immediately. If you accidentally put them somewhere dangerous, you can't just drop the mortar and use that to immediately break the. I'm sure there's probably a mission based around that, right? Yeah, probably. And then, the rest of it is fairly similar. Lots of new weird perks for your soldiers. Yeah, well, I love that system. That's just the craziness of that system from Valkyria's 1 was like probably the most interesting part. Like, if I've got these two characters together, they'll have a synergy ability that's super awesome. Or this character has a really bizarre trait that they don't like sand. And I didn't realise that until I brought them into this level, and then their allergies flared up. And it's like, oh god. Well, that's the ones that are...
It's coarse and rough and it gets everywhere.
It's the ones that are exactly. Awkward. And there seems to be a lot more of that, which is maybe kind of difficult to deal with. Like, now it seems like they're making it so everyone has a distinct flaw, rather than in Valkyria Chronicles 1, where there were some people that were just good. Yeah. Go on, Vise. Hero of Valkyria Chronicles. But yeah, now it seems like everyone has a flaw. And sometimes they're like... It's a sort of old... It's not exactly an XCOM problem, except in XCOM it's a problem of percentages. where it's like you miss a 90% shot and it sucks.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, it's like why would you ever take a soldier who sometimes just doesn't fire?
Yeah.
It's just like that's such an incredibly so in a tactics game, you need them to do what you told them to, because what if they're the only person who can do it? So why would you ever bring that soldier into the battle?
Yeah,
unless their other perks are that much stronger to balance it out.
Or if they're a story character, which would be highly frustrating.
Well, normally they don't go that ridiculous on the story characters. They generally are slightly, nicer about the perks and debuffs that
Except
the story characters have.
Wasn't Main Lady from the first game like the best scout, though?
I don't know if she was the best scout. She was pretty good.
I know Ica might have been the best scout.
Ica was also pretty good.
Yeah, because she had such a long run range.
Well, I mean, scouts have such a long run range, it's almost irrelevant how much extra they have.
I guess. Yeah.
Bonuses. But yeah,
I'm okay with this. Yeah. It sounds good.
It'd be nice if they'd done any work on the UI at all. If they just smoothed out some of the awkwardness, it would have been that much better. But, I guess it's still functional.
I will dip into this demo at some point. I have to. Because I truly... Although I wasn't ultra great at it, and although I wasn't hardcore enough to go and replay too much of it once I'd done the main story. Like, I did some of the aside skirmish stuff, but there was plenty of those I didn't finish. I really, truly love Valkyria Chronicles 1. Yeah. I think it's a masterpiece. But it's just... Yeah. So far I'm not hearing anything that's too dissuading. I'm not sure I like the idea of the mortar character, but maybe it's enough to twist things around. And
maybe.
Yeah, it just sounds a bit too powerful. A bit too...
I think my one problem with it has been, assuming that this demo is the start of the game, which it appears to be.
Right, okay. Yeah, like probably mission 2 or 3, like as some demos sometimes are.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Then, well, no, you do kind of do a tutorial mission, which, I mean, that could be a special tutorial mission for the demo, but I don't know. It seems like kind of the start of the game. But from what I've seen so far of the characters, the motivation seems like real low. Because compared to the first game, it's like, you're literally defending your homeland and your town gets blown up immediately and all that stuff. This one, it's like that's all happening somewhere else, and you're just like a generic squad in the army of the Federation. And there doesn't seem to be any, why is this guy going to be the hero?
I mean, there's a big question in terms of how the actual Valkyria storyline will work anyway, right?
True, isn't it? Where the Valkyria is going to come in.
Yeah, because isn't it in the first game that tall evil lady is supposedly the last, or is thought to be the last of the Valkyria? So is she going to be in this fight, or are they going to have to somehow introduce other people that were for some reason never reported back to the main fight?
Well, I mean, she could turn up. That would be not too difficult.
But then she wouldn't be taken down by you. She'd be taken down by the other team.
Yeah, a one-off thing. I mean, they might not need to do that.
Unless there's a dramatic skip ahead in time somewhere, like it actually overlaps the other storyline.
Well, because really the whole point of the Valkyria thing in 1 was that, she basically turns up to reveal her powers in that one. It's
halfway through the game.
It's because the fucking castle in Gallia is the Valkyria thing, right?
Right.
That's why the Valkyria has to go there. And then she has to go there, and then therefore you find that you have a Valkyria on your side conveniently. Spoilers, I guess, for that game.
Who doesn't know that they are one?
Yeah. But then, so that makes sense. So maybe you just won't need that in this story, but it will be kind of weird for the game to be called Valkyria Chronicles and not including any Valkyria stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't be too upset if they didn't do that, but I want some anime bonkersness. You know what I mean? I want it to go a little bit crazy.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they could come up with some dumb new super weapon. I mean, they already had those goddamn giant behemoth tank things.
Oh man, yeah, that was insane.
Those things suck.
Yeah.
To fight against.
It was not that mission was all of those missions actually that involved that thing were they were frustrating. Valkyria Chronicles 1 has the problem where you might get screwed the first time you do a mission just because of something you didn't know was going to happen.
It's got the halfway trigger where something changes.
Here's a change in circumstance, and it's like, oh, I'm really messed up now because I'm all out of position for this next phase.
On the plus side, in the demo of 4, the one time that did happen, it just repositioned all your units.
Oh,
It
that's
was just like, we're just going to put all your people now into this base, and then you go from there.
No, maybe they've heard that. Oh, yeah, because there was some. I think I've seen some stuff of that. Oh, maybe it was one of the other Valkyria games, but yeah, like I think it might have been like 2 or 3 or something, where some of the levels were actually on smaller areas that you then, once you like defeated the outpost in that area, the whole fight moved to a new area as part of the same mission, rather than having big maps. Like, presumably to get around a PSP limitation or something.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's
But it was the times it happened in this, it was the same map, where it was just like,
but they've just conveniently shoved you around.
You've just shuffled all your units over here now.
I think that's a sensible option for that, I guess.
I mean, it remains to be seen whether that's just how it works, or that's just how it was in these couple of missions.
Yeah.
There could still be awkward mid-game flips.
I mean, I think they could do, like, if the game had a better, like, Valkyria 1 had the problem where it's like these changes were immediate.
Yeah.
When you hit the certain condition, it's like the change would be in effect, and then the next turn you would either be screwed by it or you'd be in position for it. It's like if there was a way that, all it would take would be like a couple of turns of telegraphing, right? And be like, right, this is happening next. Get yourself sorted before it comes and screws you up.
Kinda.
It's like, hey, the tank's coming, but it can't do anything for a couple of turns. And you can't do anything to it because it's just coming into the battlefield, for instance. Something like that.
Maybe.
I mean, that would solve the problem in most cases, unless, where you need to get to is somewhere you haven't dealt with in the lead up to that.
I mean, the problem that doesn't solve is when you don't have the right soldiers for the situation.
Sure.
Which is fairly rare, and there's still the option for, redeploying people out of the bases if you're in that bad a situation, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like that may have been fixed, kind of, maybe.
I mean, that was only frustrating in the longer levels, that mechanic. and the inability for you to, save mid-mission and go, okay, let me go back to where I cocked that up. If it checkpointed, potentially, at useful checkpoints. But then I guess if it did checkpoint, it would checkpoint immediately after when you triggered the thing.
Well, and maybe, one turn beforehand wouldn't be enough, so you'd still have to pretty much restart the mission.
Maybe,
if you got that in that bad a position.
And also, you don't want it to be too generous, so you can't just game it and save scum it. Or...
Not that there's a lot of things that you can game in those games.
Game in the game.
There's a lot of weird mechanics of that series where you can just exploit it quite a lot. Shooting people in the butt because they can't see you.
Shoot them in the butt.
So yeah, that's that.
Bloodshot. Is that out? Or is it just...
No, it's
just to put the demo early? Okay.
I can't remember what the release date said. I think it's a couple of months.
Right. But that's across all platforms, isn't it? Not just Switch.
I haven't seen it on PC yet. And that's what I'm wondering about.
That has to come out on PC.
You'd think so after the success of the last... when they re-released
That's the whole reason they're making this, right?
Well, maybe.
Because of that re-release?
I don't know. The other 3 games probably still were popular in some circles.
I mean, they were popular in Japan.
I guess.
Those 2 and 3 did okay in Japan, I think, but... Valkyria.
Yeah.
Potential hype. I'll check out that demo for sure.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
I think it's your turn, Rob.
Oh, there's not a great deal else to talk about. Yeah, I can only really deep dive into Final Fantasy 15 this week because it's been. I've sunk another what I'm up to 21 hours or something on the game clock in that. So I've sunk quite a lot of time into it since I started it last time, and I'm sort of drawn in. I'm finding it hard to put it down. It's once I've started playing it, it's there you go. I mean, all right, I'm in for the long haul. It's one of those. But I don't think it's really blowing me away at any sort of moment. It's relaxing me in the same way that I think most relaxing open world games do, in that that Assassin's Creed thing where it's I'm just gonna go over here, do a thing, nice and casual. Then I'm gonna go over here, go do a thing, no biggie, just checking off things to do. And it's the problem is I guess there's quite a lot of that. And so I got past the first area lead, and then it opens up into a much bigger area. And there's and a much prettier looking area, it has to be said. Suddenly some of the Final Fantasy-ness becomes a bit of a thing, because you've got weird, giant, like mile-long rock arches around, so like surrounding a meteor crash site, as it turns out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, it's suddenly some of the fantasy stuff is starting to become a little more present, other than... But I think this is where, like, actually... Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. It's like, for a Final Fantasy game, this might be the least fantasy that there's ever been in the series.
Oh, really?
As in, it's almost too grounded in just modern day. Like, all of your party have smartphones, right? That's a thing that exists, and they settle down to play a game of King's Knight, which is some fictional game that you can't play every now and then, and so they're making jokes about it, and then... selfie is a word in this universe, and the hashtag, as it turns out, is a thing in this universe.
Damn it!
And it's like, and it's like when I'm hearing things like that, because this is one of those barks that repeats far too often. Like if you're viewing a picture that Prompto's taken and it's a selfie, like Noctis will say, "Half your pictures are selfies, man," and he goes, "Hashtag sorry, not sorry." And it's like, and you hear that like every other time you view a selfie picture. And it's like, oh god, you need to shut up. Not only have you got the hashtag in here, but it's a super repetitive bark. Like, please shut up. I'm going to do an Apu impression. It's like, I can't believe you don't shut up. It's one of those.
Yeah, okay, fair.
It's, but, it's just everything about the world, really, when you think about it. It's it's just like, okay, there's cars. That's not the first time they've been in Final Fantasy. Cars are cars, but they look more normal, I guess, than cars than cars in Final Fantasy usually do. They seem to be modelled on the 50s aesthetic for the most part, but they look like cars. And there's like barrels in places, and like gas stations look like gas stations, and it's... Where's the crazy ass architecture? Like this town looks like it's probably in Mexico. Things like that. It's all just... It's too real, man. It's too real. I guess as a reference point, like think of like Final Fantasy VIII, right? It was modern-ish, but still had a significant twist on how everything looked. Like the cars were odd. You had the gardens are odd. The town design is strange in many ways. Like it's like they've taken Tudor architecture and twisted it some way, or they've taken some other theme and twisted it in some way. Like, I'm missing the twist here. And it's taking me out of it a little bit. I want that to be there. Because while I'm out there fighting, like, I saw a cactuar, for instance, and I'm like...
that doesn't fit in this world at all!
Yeah! It's like...
Although, to be honest, cactuars never really fit in any of those worlds that well.
I guess not, but, yeah.
Apart from maybe 7. They were all right in 7.
There's something to be said when a chocobo seems normal, right? it's like a chocobo should be like. They're still kind of awesome, but there's nothing particularly just sort of like stand out about a chocobo here. It's just like, yeah, I believe that. There's frogs. There's normal ass frogs.
There's been normal ass frogs before.
Yeah, I suppose you get toad.
There's a shit ton in 9. Yeah. All those goddamn frogs.
Oh yeah. I think
non-stop frogs.
I imagine that's where the inspiration for the frog collecting quests comes from.
Probably.
Yeah, I feel like there's something missing. And it's like... And I think it's a very similar feeling, I think, to when I was playing Final Fantasy 13. Even in the combat, and if you look at it on that level, because it's like, in theory, everything is there in some capacity in Final Fantasy 13's combat. You've got your attacks, you've got your magics, you've got your buffs, you've got your things like that, but the controller's taken away from you in 13, so that you've only got those paradigms.
It's not like you're choosing to do lightning free.
I mean, you vaguely can.
Yeah, kind of.
But it takes so much time that it's not worth it. And it's like, in this one you do have magic, but magic is there's a pretty scarce resource. You have to craft magic into and you use it. I've made 9 Thundaras, for instance, and it's but the magic is actually that I can cast seems somewhat limited. Like you have to make them out of a blend of the 3 elements and a catalyst of some kind, which might add. Oh, this is a dual cast Fira or Fira, however you want to say it. This one might have a side effect of potentially causing poison as well as being a fire attack and things like that. Like the amount of magic you can cast has been dramatically reduced. But all the status effects in the world seem to exist. Like confusion is still a thing, but it reverses your controls now. Poison is obviously still a thing. Apparently Toad is still a thing. I'm quite thankful I've never seen silence or darkness yet, if those exist. So it feels like the component parts are there, but they're sort of not yours anymore. Like they're just sort of something that can happen rather than something you intend. And I don't know if that's.
Well, I think that was why Bravely Default succeeded in its battle system. Was once you realised that that battle system was basically almost entirely based on status effects at a certain point, that became the game. You were finding those combos of certain status effects and weird ways to exploit it. Whereas when and even back to 13 and stuff, once they went into this partially automated system, it's what choices are you actually making? What are the tactics? Where it's general tactics. So you're selecting a setup.
So 13 basically devolved into, okay, I know. The first fight against 13 had a weird system where the first fight against an enemy, the first time you saw an enemy, you'd have no knowledge of it.
Yeah.
And so basically your first few attacks or your first uses of paradigms, for instance, your characters would be throwing stuff randomly at it to see what sticks.
Yeah.
But then the moment something sticks, those characters then know how to fight that enemy. So, and this is all automatic. So the next time you say shift to, the next time you go against an enemy, okay, as long as I as a player know that buffs and that debuffs are super effective against this enemy, it's I'm going to switch to the paradigm. So I've got a character with debuffs in flow. That character then knows to throw the correct debuffs, the effective debuffs against that one. I don't have to really do anything. I just have to say, debuff that, please.
Yeah.
And as a player, that's all I need to know. Everything else has been figured out by the characters, by the game. The game is somewhat playing itself.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And in fairness to it, they've stepped away from that. The combat in FF15 is much more action-focused. It's about being in position. It's about trying to get behind enemies, hitting them from behind. It's also, some of the coolest stuff is about trying to land an attack from behind whilst one of your friends is also in the vicinity, because that then links up the attack and you do a lot more damage and you get a cool animation for doing it.
Oh, sorry.
And things like that. So the combat is all about that now.
But that's not about Final Fantasy things.
Yeah, that's not Final Fantasy. It's not nearly as. It's interesting and it's unique in its own weird way, because you're I'm holding button. I'm not mashing buttons. I'm holding B to start an attack chain, and then I'm lifting it to come out, and then I need to press X. If I'm holding X, I'm in defensive phasing stance, which costs my magic points to dodge attacks. And then I might have to press it at the right time to parry attacks, which is highly telegraphed by a big old button prompt on screen. And it's just it's an interesting but not necessarily satisfying experience. And I think the whole game, as it turns out, the more I'm playing it, the more it kind of ends up feeling like that. It ends up feeling just that little bit lacking in soul. The world is big, but there's not a huge amount to do in it other than go to place, kill thing, or go to place, find thing, or fish. It's the some of its, I guess, road trip aesthetic is starting to wear thin. But here's the thing: it's I might be jumping the gun too soon on this feeling, because I'm 20 hours in, which is quite a lot of time, and I'm still only on chapter 3. I've had no story.
It was the classic Final Fantasy 13 problem, where it's that only started getting interesting after 20 hours.
Well, yeah, then you hit Pulse, and you get the different game turns up. But then the story stops there as well.
Well, it was a different story from...
Yeah. The storyline didn't involve Pulse, like, really. All that stuff there was, like...
just stuff.
Yeah, it was stuff to do, and it was different stuff to do, so it suddenly became interesting, but it's like, this is not story relevant. Yeah, 15 kind of has the problem where most of it is that. Actually, most of it is like Pulse. They've heard the advice. It's like, oh, this is where it got good, and they've tried to make a whole game around it. See, I got to the point where I don't know if I'm just supposed to be doing more of the story, and the volume of side quests are just there because they are there, and there's a lot of them. But then it's like, okay, I think my next main mission is like a level 10, maybe 15 mission or something like that. I'm now level 30 because I'm doing a lot of side quests and things like that, and it's like, but all the side quests in the area that you find are all appropriate for that level that I'm at now, or a little bit lower because I'm quite over-leveled. But like, so all the side quest stuff like seems to be ramping up way for the area. Seems to be ramping up way faster than the story stuff for the area. So I'm not sure if I'm just supposed to be mainlining the story, like just follow the level things and go like, okay, what's the lowest level requirement? Let's go do that first. Rather than doing what's nearby, which is what I'm doing. Like, oh, this thing's not that far away, or I can easily fast travel to that location to do that. Let's just do that. This is a typical Rob review in that, you know, it sounds like I'm being quite harsh on the thing.
But you're actually enjoying it most of the time.
Yeah, I'm having a good time with it. It's like, as I said, it may be kind of a nothing, but it's a nothing I just sink into. And I'm swept up in it, and I'm part of it. And it's like, I wish things were better. I wish the camera was better during fights, for instance. Good God, that thing has issues. But overall, I'm just permanent. I am still in a state of intrigue. It's like this is unlike. It's like, yeah, the component parts are just unlike things that have come before. In any game, really. I can't think of anything that has like a fight system that works that way. I can't think of anything that has the same road trip mechanic that this does, where I'm not traversing the landscape myself most of the time. I'm sat in a car listening to Final Fantasy music from other games. Of which the Dissidia soundtrack is there as well. And apparently there are some tracks from Nier in there as well, which is cool. It's a strange thing. But I'm not going to stop playing it.
No. Strange in a different way from
very mixed ways.
Of other.
I mean, yeah, it's mixed in almost, like, I can just keep going with this. It's like, it's mixed in almost every element. Like, the more, like, it's a great looking game at times. Some of the environments really do look great. Some of the, like, monster design looks pretty great in places. It's like there's these furry sort of wildebeest pig horned things that have like sheep's fur, and it's like that sheep's fur looks real good.
Nice.
You know, and it sort of sways a bit and it animates well, and it's like, yeah, there's stuff like that that's just, you go, yeah, all right, let's go see where the effort went here. The car looked good. You know, that car is nice. But then you get the odd sort of like awkward bit of like, oh, here's an NPC I'm talking to, and none of the lip syncing is matching up, and Noctis is standing there really awkwardly swaying from side to side permanently. Like, he doesn't stand still. He's just like, oh, I'm going to step to one side now, I'm going to step to the other side.
Fidgety guy.
Yeah, and the like a lot of the dialogue is pretty great, but like all the barks repeat far too often, and
yeah, like you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, the naturalistic tone to some of it is pretty great. Some of it doesn't work. Like, there's almost it's an honor moment. Like, in one of the things, it's like, Ignis will sometimes, like, if it's too late for you to be driving on the roads because they get super dangerous and demon-filled, or there's the potential for demons, that, you know, he goes like, I think he says like, oh, the roads are perilous at night. We should call it a day. And you go, and what do you say? It's something like yeah, let's get some rest. And he's like, well, let's call it a night then. And it's like, you just called it a day, so let's call it a night. Like, little weird weird repeats in the dialogue. So, like, sometimes like go, that's a bit weird. No one would have said that so many times. And all the characters are almost too like upbuilding with each other. Like they always agree with each other all the time. It's like, oh, weather's really nice.
Kind of tension between, right?
Yeah, like weather's really nice. Yeah, it's getting a bit chilly. Yeah, I'm getting a bit tired. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Oh dear.
I'm really hungry. We're still alive though.
Look on the bright side.
Yeah, it's sometimes really strange.
Lining.
I know they're supposed to be good mates and all that, but a little bit more.
Yeah,
a little bit more ribbing is required. A little bit more bants.
Top bants.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Glad it exists, as with all Final Fantasies. But where's the good stuff? Where's the top tier stuff? I'm supposed to know who all the characters are as well. The game presents it like I know who these people are. Which maybe I should have gone and watched Kingsglaive. Or...
Yeah, maybe you should have watched the anime.
The anime, yeah. There's an anime and a film that predate the storyline of this game. And it's like, who's Iris? I mean, it's cool in a way because it's like the characters know these characters, right? But there's no real explanation of anyone's backstory, ever. So it's like, how do I know who this person is? Why should I care about this kid called Talcott?
Talcott?
Talcott? Why in a universe of people called Sid, Cindy, Ignis, Prompto, Gladio, Noctis, Talcott, Iris... Cole, that's his name. Is there a guy just called Dave?
Well, Sid isn't that different from Dave.
Sid with a C.
Yeah, but you don't know that from pronunciation.
I'm playing with the subtitles, so I do.
Yes. And you also know it's that because it's a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah,
you wouldn't know it from pronunciation.
Dave.
I mean, it was the unimportant NPCs that used to have generic names, like Final Fantasy 7, like the other members of Avalanche.
I suppose the names in some of the names in 7 at least were slightly more normal, I guess.
Waiting for Biggs and Wedge.
Yeah, Biggs and Wedge, of course. And Marlene. That's somewhat normal, maybe. I guess even Barrett's the little normal, but no one is a surname, but...
Holland and Barrett.
Yeah.
With a giant machine gun arm.
I make those adverts way more interesting.
Yeah.
Rather than Alan Davies trying to go, eat healthy, live better, buy protein, or whatever that Holland and Barrett actually sell. Get some nuts.
Not quite.
Look at Barrett turn up and just say, get some nuts, like Mr. T. Like Barrett's supposed to be Mr. T, right?
Basically.
Get some nuts. I think that's pretty much all I've got to talk about. Splatfest happened, but, Splatfest is Splatfest. Mm. Still playing Octo from time to time, but, not really a great deal to add to what I've said before.
Cool.
I'm sure you'll be hearing, I'm pretty sure at this rate, 15 is probably going to be a 100-hour game, so strap in, boys. There's more of this.
Blimey. Okay, fair. Well, I got God of War, finally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But then after, one play session, my amplifier conked out.
Oh, no!
After 20-plus years of loyal service. Yeah.
That thing has done work.
That thing has done serious work. So today, all week I haven't had sound from my computer. So today I went on emergency, get something to replace it mission.
You just nick your soundbar from the other room and...
Can't really. I mean, that's thing is huge.
Yeah, just wrap it around the back of your entire desk.
Yeah. So, anyway, so let's talk about the amplifier a bit. So I bought one today for like 300 quid, which is not, considering I needed to replace something, it's not like super cheap or anything. But
AV or stereo?
Just stereo. I just needed the most basic thing that sounded as good as possible. Because I already have
the most basic thing that sounds as good as possible.
Yeah. So like, I don't think
that really exists in the audiophile world. It's like
that's the problem. Is like I don't need features because like I already have this expensive DAC. So I've got I've got channel switching. I've even got volume, and I've got digital to audio conversion. So all I need is amplification. Which is what the power amp did for all those years really well. And I've got this thing, and I thought, well, I might as well get an integrated amplifier so it at least has a volume control, because it is a bit weird not having that. But anyway, I plugged it in, and I mean, it'll do for now, but it sounds pants in comparison. It's amazing the difference it makes.
For 300 quid?
It just sounds
not a good pairing with your speakers, because that's a thing, right?
That is a thing, but you can tell, like, it just sounds dead. It sounds fine, but it sounds dead. And
oh my god! Speaking of dead, did you see that the Chicken Connoisseur has a TV show?
No, I didn't. But it in the Chicken
Life.
Peng Life. Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out, because this amplifier sadly is not paying. It is in fact dead.
Dead, mate.
Dead man. But it'll do for now. But
so you've just paid bags for something that's dead.
Well, basically, I paid quite a bit for a downgrade, but I mean, never mind. I mean, I knew at least I didn't. It could have been worse. Like, I could have spent a lot more, and it still wouldn't have been as good, which would really have been upsetting. So I need to figure out what to do. I think this will do as a stopgap, and then I'll work something out. Technically, I have more of. I inherited all of my dad's old hi-fi stuff, so I just need to contact my stepmom and see if I can get one of them down from Manchester.
What did you have before?
So these are so it was like a cast off basically. So my dad had these Lin hi-fi system. So his full system was like, we had like a CD player, and then he had a preamp and 2 power amps, I think, or maybe 3.
Sounds a bit much.
No, he must have had 3. No, that he must have had 3 power amps. Is that right? Anyway, so I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I think if that's right, then he had a preamp and then a power amp for each, frequency range, because the speakers had tweeters, the normal whatever's in the middle.
Were they individually fed?
Yeah, so they were individually fed by each.
Wow.
So each stage was powered by its own power amp. I believe that's right. But I can't imagine the tweeter would need as much power as the woofer. But maybe, I think that's just for the detail. Like, the whole point of the power is not necessarily volume. It's about, like, how much control you have of the speaker cone. Because the more voltage you have, the more precise you can be in moving it, basically. So he must have... Yeah, magnets, basically. So so he must have had 3 power amps. Anyway, so because originally he had 1 preamp and 1 power amp, powering all of the ranges, and then he upgraded and got 3 power amps, I think, and they were the newer model. So I got the old power amp. That's what I've been using for years, is the old 1 power amp that he used. So I think technically I must have 3 backup power amps somewhere, which I can go and get, and they'll be slightly better as well because they were the later model. It actually had the new ones that he got in whenever it was 2001 or something. They actually had like a standby mode. Wow! Whereas the one I've been using, you have to like switch it on and off with a giant switch every time.
In fairness, so my stereo amp that I use in my office is I love that thing. It's not a very expensive one, but it's like a Marantz.
Oh yeah, that's a really good make. Yeah, I
love that thing. Can make any speaker sound good, because I'm running that thing on like terrible, Yamaha speakers that are like the cast-offs from the 5.1 system.
Yep, that you have. Yeah,
that I have. So I've still got the center speaker from that, and I've still got the subwoofer from that attached to my main ones. But like, I've replaced all the satellites. and I'm just using the satellites in my office because they're the only other speakers I have.
Yeah.
But this thing is able to make them sound pretty good.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Given their limitations, and it's so I love this thing. But
yeah.
But in the same breath, it's like, I know this thing isn't top spec. I know this thing isn't all that expensive, and it's like but when to have you coming from a Lin kit,
yeah,
that's going to be hard to beat, man.
Yeah, it's pretty tough because I thought, well, the speakers that I have, my Lin power amp that's just broken, plugged into, they're just these Bose. They're decent Acoustimass or whatever system, but it's not exactly hi-fi like my dad's whole system was, with the floor standing speakers with the vibration mounts and the 3 different.
Yeah.
So it's like I probably had a power amp that was way too good for the rest of the kit, but plugging in this not so good one, and you instantly hear the difference. Well, I do anyway, and it's like, oh, god damn it. Anyway, so
you're still using those Bose satellites.
The
mini ones.
Yeah.
They're good still.
Oh, they're good, but they're not like.
They would lift it, but yeah.
Yeah, so I've still got those, and I've still got the good DAC, but it's like the key component is the amplifier. So I need to see if I can figure out. So unfortunately, I'll spend £300 on something that probably is just a stopgap, but never mind.
What did you replace it with?
Oh, I got let me see, it's NAD.
Oh, right, okay. I've heard of them. I don't know a great deal about them.
Yeah, I just needed something now, because otherwise I just have no sound from my computer, which is a bit. I can't really.
Yeah, I can't. It's something you can trade in, because it's like, for the first sort of desk audio, I've always been a bit of a fan of little Cambridge audio amps.
Oh yeah, I used to. No, the thing is, I had the same situation before, where back in Cambridge, where I didn't have that LK100, and I needed one, and I got a Cambridge audio one, and I didn't like it, but I think it's the same reason. Because I'm sure it's perfectly good for the price range, but it's just not even close to that Lin one.
Yeah,
from
what I remember, I haven't listened to a Cambridge audio thing for a long time, but and I think even for trying to think what the word I'm looking for is, they weren't that warm.
No,
I mean there was a certain warmth missing from it. But it almost created maybe like a digital feeling sample, even if it wasn't from a digital source.
Yeah, I know.
It's like they're still pretty good, and they're for the price, you're getting pretty good amp
for sure.
And for most people, that's going to be far more than enough.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wasn't. It didn't have the magic trick that my Marantz had.
No,
it's like I don't know how a good amp does what it does. How can it make a speaker any crappy speaker sound great?
It's amazing how important it is. You'd think as a layman, it would be more important that
to have
the
a
speaker would be more important. Yeah. But so it's a bit weird. But anyway, so yeah, that's the situation. So I haven't played that much God of War, but I could tell you about what I have played.
Do so.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really good. I'm not as wowed by it as visually as I had been by Uncharted and the variety in that, but I think it's growing on me. I've got the PS4 Pro, so it's looking pretty nice. I mean,
is it one of those games that lets you pick a mode? Or
I think it does. I can't remember which one I went for. I think I went for, locked 30 and full detail.
Up the quality of it.
Yeah. Because it's quite a slow. It's not like the old games, or what's that genre called? Bayonetta and Devil May Cry and all that.
Well, it's sort of dubbed character action, isn't it?
Character action, yeah. So I guess the old God of Wars were sort of character action, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, very much so. So this is, but it's slowed down. It's a bit like going from Half-Life to Half-Life 2, It's closer to a Batman. So it's kind of interesting. The combat is the most interesting part. I mean, obviously that's the meat of the game, I suppose, but the story's interesting too, but I've only just got into it, so I don't really know how good it is yet. But I mean, the performances seem really good so far. The combat, it's like the speed of a Batman, maybe like Arkham Asylum, but with the complexity of a character action, or like moving towards. And I'm not so used to that. I did play Bayonetta a while back, but it's actually quite complex. There's a lot.
Batman can be quite fast, and like Batman does have its complexities, right, with the other moves you can do.
It does, but I felt more comfortable. I got really good at Batman Arkham Asylum combat, and like the later ones had a few more tricks, but not that much. Whereas this, I'm getting a bit lost. Like I'm really having to concentrate to try and learn to do the basics. Before, because then when as you get experience, you can unlock more moves and stuff. Yeah. And there's a massive tree of moves, but I'm really having to like concentrate to learn the basics, because it's like you've got a heavy and light attack, with the axe, because you have an axe now instead of the previous God of War, you had like
the chains,
sword things.
Yeah.
But now you have an axe, or is it an axe? Yeah, it's an axe, which is like Mjolnir in that it comes back to your hand or whatever. So you have heavy and light attack, and there's the usual light, heavy combo and all that. Light combo, heavy combo. And you can do like heavy, chucks them up into the air, and then light to juggle, which is kind of cool. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff. But then you can throw the axe, like heavy and light throws, but then it doesn't just come back automatically. You have to hit a button to make it come back. So then you've kind of switched. If you throw the axe and leave it, you're then in a different mode where you then have light and heavy attacks with your fists, which are different and have different effects. Yeah. And some enemies are vulnerable to one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a stagger effect, isn't it, rather than an actual damage
Exactly.
effect.
So that one builds up more. It does do damage, but it builds up more stagger meter or like whatever on the enemies, like more. I think it is stagger. Yeah. And then once they're fully staggered, you can do like a Doom style, then rip their head off type animation move. Where you're invulnerable. Yeah.
A bit of me thought that was just going to put them in like a staggered state, and that just means, right, okay, now is when I get my axe, and now I start doing some damage. I didn't realize that was like a glory kill.
Yeah, you could do like a finishing move with the stagger stuff, which is kind of cool. But then, of course, and if you recall the axe, as it flies through people, it actually hurts them on the return, which is kind of
nice.
Cool. So that's that. But then, dodging and then you have the shield, which you can hold up, but you can also like parry by bringing it up just the moment that they're going to hit. So that's like the counter, because that staggers them. It's not a counter attack. You have to follow up with an attack.
Sure.
But that's the counter. But then the dodge, I'm having trouble deciding whether to. I think I have to learn based on the enemies, but whether to parry or whether to dodge. Because the dodge...
Yeah, that makes sense. It'd probably be an enemy-specific thing.
Yeah, quite a lot of them are. And because there's so much to do, like I don't know if it's countering or dodging. And the dodge is very interesting. When I started the game, I was very frustrated with the dodge because it seemed like I wasn't moving you barely move, like it's like a sidestep. And then if you kind of double tap, you do a roll. But at the start of the game, I was like rolling constantly, trying to get out of the way of enemies and failing to do so. And I was doing it completely wrong. So the dodge, the window between the first tap while you're doing the sidestep is actually quite a big window before you can tap again, before you can do it straight away, but you have a bit of window before you can decide to roll or not. So you can even sidestep in one direction and then roll in the other direction, which is kind of interesting. You have enough time to do that. And the kind of the key part, which is the thing that I'm not used to from like character action, I suppose, is that when you sidestep, you're actually invulnerable for a couple of frames.
Oh, interesting.
So it doesn't actually matter that you visually look like you've actually got out the way of the attack necessarily.
You absolutely have.
Yeah. As long as you press it with the right timing, it's a fully effective dodge, which is the thing that I had to learn, because it just looks like I'm still in the middle of it.
That comes across as a bit of a negative in that, like, if something doesn't necessarily look and feel how it's actually mechanically playing.
Yeah, that's true.
That's.
But the more I'm looking at it, it's because my feeling has been like I need to get out of the way. But when I actually look at the animation, it's not like the enemy attack is actually clipping through me. It does actually look like I've dodged it, but it looks like I've done it in a kind of cool boxer way
like
where I've only just sidestepped it.
Close to the face, like the blade is giving me a shave.
Exactly. So that's kind of cool. And I'm sort of, but I'm still, there's a lot there. And then, of course, you then layer on all the stuff that you get as upgrades and stuff. Like already I've got some kind of thing where I hold up my shield and then hit something and it does some kind of knocking area of effect, staggering of enemies around me and stuff. And there's quite a lot to it.
Like, when do you use that compared to just the regular stuff, you mean? Or... Exactly.
Or I just forget about it. It's some skill that I unlocked, and it's like, because I'm trying to concentrate on shit. And quite a lot I haven't realized that I threw my axe and I haven't got it. Like, it's not like the screen changes color. Sometimes I forget what mode I'm in, and it's like, oh yeah, I haven't got, why aren't I doing much damage? Oh yeah, the axe is over there. Stuff like that.
Fists.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that's going to be super rewarding once you get, into it. But I'm kind of struggling at the start of the game, and it's a bit frustrating, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. But it's like the combat is not, it doesn't really go that easy on you at the start necessarily. I don't think. Maybe I'm just shit. But it is kind of cool when you get through. I mean, your health isn't actually that high. But you get lots of health pickups, often you're like nearly dead by the end of a fight, but then you'll go straight back up to full health because you just pick up a few of the...
You just found something.
Yeah. So it's kind of a bit yo-yo-y like that, with the health. So you could easily die.
That's definitely like a hangover from character action in general. Yeah. Like, most character action games are like, survive this encounter, you'll be fine afterwards, trust us.
Exactly. And that's actually quite good. Like, there's been a few times where the save point was a tiny bit back, so I had to do a little bit traversal before I could get back to the fight that I just lost. And if that, obviously that can get frustrating if it happens a lot, but it hasn't been too bad so far. And I'm enjoying the kind of world building so far, but it's pretty early days, like I say.
Sure, yeah.
So I'll be going back to it with inferior sound quality. Yeah.
Is it something you could solve like with a decent pair of headphones? Or?
Probably. I do have headphones, but I don't have they're like USB for my PC, right, cool. So they won't work with the PlayStation.
Good.
That's no good. Well, it'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. I'm just being a snob, but it's like I've been used to really good sound for literally 20 years.
I know what you mean. It's sometimes hard to pull back.
It's just interesting how much difference like the electronics in a box makes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
And it's like hardware, that kind of hardware is interesting in that, like, it's not something like we're so used to computer technology where it gets a lot better with time and a lot cheaper with time, right? I mean, we're talking about these graphics cards, but they are streets ahead of what you could get 5 years ago.
Orders of magnitude above.
Whereas with hi-fi, you could easally have an amplifier, there's not, the amplifiers that come out now are not necessarily streets ahead of a 20-year-old one. Not at all.
Far from it. They might be based on different tech, and they might do some things better. And like you said, like a lot of them will pack features in by the nines these days.
But I don't care the features. I don't need them.
Yeah. I just need something to play the sound good.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Anyway.
Whereas I'm the other way, where it's like I'm at the point where, like, at least with my AV system, it's like it's in... I like the sound of Sony kit. It's like it's not the best sound in the world, but it's like it does a pretty good job, given that my front speakers are also Sony's.
Sure,
and, it does all right for what I have. But it's like feature-wise, it came out in that awkward middle ground where like 4K was only just becoming a thing. So it does have 4K pass-through, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't have HDR pass-through.
Right, yeah.
So it's like I wouldn't be able to rig it up to use HDR signals. I'd have to start plugging those directly into the TV. But it's like, but then you're kind of okay because optical is still a thing on most TVs. So I could plug that back into the amp and still be okay. It just wouldn't perhaps be as nice as I've been having it right now. Like things like the on-screen display and stuff would not be a thing anymore if I'm using HDR sources. And it's like, this hasn't quite gone to plan. HDMI, as it turns out, isn't all that backwards compatible, or there are problems. And it's like I hear now, it's like if you are going down that road, you need to be careful of HDCP as well. Yeah, like there's a new HDCP version for copy protection and all that jazz, and every bit of kit in your chain has to have the right version of that.
Oh, sucks.
So yeah, it's like the digital world isn't making everything easier.
No,
like as it improves on that front, which is a bit of a pain for enthusiasts like us.
By the way, did I talk about that I got the iPhone? Did I talk about that?
Yeah,
briefly.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
I mean,
it might have been off air. It might not have been on the cast.
I mean, all I have to say about it really is I can't believe how much better the 10 is, given that it's the same OS, and I mean in terms of like the software experience. It's the sort of the fact that they got rid of the home button forced them to do all this work to have a new gesture-based, system for like switching apps and opening apps and all of this stuff, and it's just shockingly better. I'm pretty amazed.
It'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because I don't like, or I've not been a fan of iOS. I've not seen it like since it changed really, since it hit this new style. There are certain little problems with it. Although I think like some of the ideas are good in theory, but they've just been done better everywhere else now.
Yeah, for sure.
I like the swipe up and the swipe down notification thing. Yeah, that was cool, but Android's got it and it's way more powerful now. Like the swipe up from the bottom to do like the settings and things. It's like, yeah, that's all in Android's top menu. It's like it's there and then it's customizable and
Well, now it's customizable in iOS actually. But
okay, fair enough. Yeah, but it's like even little things like the back chevron design. It's like that touch zone is far too small on an iPhone 5. Like yes, I'm aware I'm using an old ass phone and it's only running iOS 10, so it's like a couple of versions out now, but still not a great experience.
You mean trying to go back in an app?
Yeah, like what would normally used to be quite a nice big touch zone in the top left and would clearly say back in the older versions of the OS. It's like that little chevron. It's like tapping that doesn't always work. Like it seems weirdly non-functional. And that's not just true on my phone. It seems true of like Gnome's iPad as well, and things like that. It's just like it's not great in places.
Well, the thing is that thing is bloody miles away from your thumb as well. So, but
true.
One thing that is quite good, although it's not perfect in iOS, is that the SDK does mean that it's quite reliable. That in most apps you can swipe from the left of the screen over, and it does do the same thing. So from anywhere on the left, you can swipe over, and that actually does work across most apps because they all use the same UI kit, SDK.
Yeah, so you swipe from the left to in theory, go back to the panel that was left because left is back for something.
Exactly. And that does work quite well. My personal pet peeve is apps that like the BBC News app that swipe between articles by doing a swipe anywhere in the middle of the bloody canvas.
Yeah, left,
I
right,
hate
swipes.
that. Yeah,
and then you do that like accidentally all the time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to scroll down and I'm like swiping to the next article and I've lost my place. It's so bloody annoying. It's not just BBC News, but that's the one that's most. BBC News app I have all kinds of problems with because all I want to read is the content and it's perfectly fine. But quite often when it updates an article, it jumps me to the top of the page and I lose my reading position. And then when I'm
that's a general problem with modern, like not necessarily app design, but like lazy loading design in general.
I know,
like things pop in and things update to the wrong place, and then you get put somewhere else, or like.
So annoying.
Do you know what more like my web pet peeve at the moment? Like one that. Like, okay, this is terrible implementation. This isn't really a pet peeve, but it's a funny one because it's directly tied to my Samsung phone. Is that the weather app, on it goes like it has its own little app panel for like the main page of details. But if you want to dig into it, like it takes you away from that app and takes you to a web page to do that stuff. So, which would be fine. Like that's why I'm not too bad at that. Except the weather.com webpage is atrocious on mobile. So the first thing I get is the weather channel and weather underground privacy and use of data
GDPR bullshit thing, yeah.
But it's enormous.
Right.
It's like it's not just like tap this and be fine with it. It's like here's everything you need to know about everything, which is good in a way. I'm fine with that.
Everyone's freaking paranoid about GDPR, especially in the US.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So this is just this ridiculously large panel of like, do you want any of this? Do you want all this? And you go, yeah, all right, fine. I'll submit my preferences. Oh, they've changed it a little bit, but okay. So last time I did this, it then went through a phase of, I'm now going to save your preferences for a really long time.
Are you okay with this?
Yeah, and it would just like be spinning a dial, and then the page would load, and then it would immediately forget that I've done that, and put the giant full screen permissions thing back there, and it's like I can't actually look at your website on this phone, and it's the Samsung app that's linking me to this website. It's just for the love of it, that's so bad. Like as I'm saying it now, they do seem to have fixed it. but
even
that
so,
was
yeah.
It's been like that a while.
Yeah, shocking.
Modern tech, it's awful, man. It's awful.
Technology.
Is that a podcast?
Yeah, that'll do us a podcast. Stay tuned, listeners, to our YouTube channel for some more videos from Zach and Rob. I don't know what's next on the docket.
There's another bloody Gungeon video. That's what's next.
You gotta, if you want to enter the Gungeon, then come along to our YouTube channel and check out Rob and Zach's adventures in the Gungeon.
We did a bit of that, yeah, because we couldn't actually record new material last week because Zach has no car at the moment, so him getting to my place we called it off last time, so he's here because I've driven him this week. So.
Oh dear. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Well, maybe there'll be less content than normal, but there'll be Saladcasts, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another one.
We'll figure something out.
For sure. So, thanks for joining us, listeners. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.